100, the number 4, relief. See how you could live with less pain and you can say yes to more of everything you want.
This hour of News Talk STL
is
brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner wholesaling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD.
I don't know what the base there is.
810-SOLD.
Insecurity, whether
looking for excitement, fun, and delicious food for the whole family? Piccadilly Parwan has it all. Savor our scratch-made dishes.
So
nothing frozen. Every bite a true delight. Roll into fun at Piccadilly Palace for roller skating. Or race your heart out at Piccadilly Kart Racing. Join us for happy hour Monday through Friday, 4 till 6. Free family dinners. Piccadilly Parwan on Audrey Lane in Union, Missouri, or online at PiccadillyPar1.com.
This is Tony Colombo, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the cheesesteak made with American Wagyu beef from Snake River Farms, and you have to include a side of their amazing fries. I love Capriati's, and you will too.
Open 9 to 9 daily on Manchester and McKnight in Rock Hill.
JC's Wayback Machine.
This week we salute the working men and women of this country with lots of tunes about work. They call him the hardest working man in show business, Jay Leno. Back in 1984, he was in our studios on a Saturday morning before anybody knew who he was. You'll hear that. Plus great tunes from the 90s, 80s, and 70s. Not the ones you hear on St. Louis radio all the time. And it's all brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. News Talk STL. Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL with the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com.
American Corporate Partners helps veterans, transitioning service members, and military spouses find their next careers by connecting them for free with America's top companies. Learn more at acp-usa.org.
And on Tuesday, we're talking about whether or not Missouri lawmakers are eager to get back to work or if they're going to wait until January.
Morning starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL.
School bus driver in a traffic jam, and the faces in the rearview mirror, looking at the promise of the promised land. One kid dreams of fame and fortune. One kid helps pay the rent. One could end up going to prison. One just might be president.
Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer.
Only in America.
Randy Tobler.
Dreaming in red, white, and blue.
On News Talk STL.
Welcome into the Labor Day edition of the Tobler Show, along with Jerome. I am Randy, and we're glad you're with us. I hope you can just kick back. Well, and during one of the commercials, make sure you take the radio with you, the earbuds, and make sure and fire up the old smoker. You got to do that because I'm sure you'll be smoking the ribs or getting things ready for maybe that pork butt. I'm assigned the ribs today, so that's mine. That's my assignment. But hope that you'll be able to hang with us the whole morning. We have really an amazing show for you this morning with a cavalcade of guests on a number of topics because it is, in fact, an important day, an important time as we think about some of the core values like American labor and the importance of our vocations and things that nothing AI can replace in the end, right? And I want to celebrate that because when it all comes down to the things we talk about, the problems we debate, the arguments we have, the differences we may have, one thing we know, the houses we live in, the infrastructure we depend on, the cars we drive, the so many things in our life are so dependent on American labor, and it's a good time to celebrate that. But it's a time to also celebrate just kicking back and being with friends. And we're glad you're with us on News Talk STL and the Tobler Show. 314-912-1019, the number. If you'd like to join in, we do have a lot of things to talk about, of course. And I think among them, first, just the utter despondence I think many people are in, the confusion we have in our minds. This week, I asked my daughter, who's now in Clarksville, Tennessee, down in at Fort Campbell land. They don't live on base, but near it. And my son-in-law, they've started a new school as they've transferred from Fort Bragg down there. The kids are, that's one thing. I never thought I'd say I had granddaughters that are military brats, but they are. They've been moving around already in his young career. And, one in a Christian preschool, the older one in a public school setting. And I'm so thankful. Evie's teacher is a retired military guy, still a young guy. You know how that goes. You can be young and go into that second career. And boy, oh boy, we're so pleased with that. And I asked my daughter, she sent us a picture. This is a public school in Clarksville, Tennessee, ladies and gentlemen. She sent us I said, how do you feel about security in the school? I think about this in the wake of this horrific event up in Minneapolis. I said, is everything cool? How do you feel about that? And she said, there's a sheriff's deputy on the premises throughout the school day, double doors requiring a very strict entrance procedure, one entry only. And then she said, when you walk in, you see this, and it's a poster, a large poster. I can't believe this in a public school. Well, I can, and I'm thankful. And maybe I shouldn't say where she goes, should I? Hope the authority, hope the ACLU isn't listening. Big poster of nothing but the Statue of Liberty with the torch and a big banner across the bottom saying, "In God We Trust." And she said, 5 words? I'm not worried. We're protected. I thought that was interesting. In the light of this, it warmed my heart, because I think God does look over places and people. Why God allows things like what happened in Minneapolis to happen, I don't know. The atheists like to riff on it, but I don't think God controls everything. If he did, we all be cosmic puppets. And everything would be like a cabinet meeting where it's always constant adulation and never questioning, right? That's a whole nother philosophical and theological issue. But I felt good about that. And I think we all think about our own children, our grandchildren, our nieces and nephews, our brothers and sisters, and when they're in public places, soft targets. Where's the next attack going to come from? Where's the next deranged individual who wasn't in an institution like he should have been? I'm not going to call this individual a she. I think it's a he who's become a part of a terrible, terrible, terrible epidemic, a psychological virus that has gripped many of our young people. And sometimes viruses are spread recklessly. Sometime, in fact, in biowarfare, perhaps look at the China virus. Maybe they're spread deliberately. And it's interesting. We're just going to talk about this a little bit. By the way, we're going to talk about a bunch of topics later on. Susie Moore about the tariffs that yesterday were squashed by an appeals court. Big story there. That too with Dave Hebert at 7:05. We'll talk with Virginia Kruta. We'll talk with Sen Schroer, because the governor, Senator Schroer, has been pushing hard for it, and the governor's called a special session to redistrict and to finally come up with some IP reform. Then we're going to talk with a guy who's running a nice soccer club up in St. Charles. They've got some waves that they're making. So we'll be covering the landscape. But as we think about this event, and you think about what it is that leads to this kind of thing, Jerome, I know you've been following what may be the genesis of this, or at least some of these shooters. People have focused on trans. Other people have said, well, you Christians just got to stop praying more and take people's guns. and it's become politicized to just a horrid way. But I think we all do ask questions. What can we do to sort of get at, if there is a root cause, what is the root cause? I think that it's important to recognize that people that choose to change their biological sex or attempt to change it with medications and surgeries and attire and haircuts, clearly there's something awry there. There's something wrong that's gone wrong in their brains. And I think the mental health community, those who have mental health in the mental health community, many don't, by the way. Many of them are in leadership in the mental health community, sadly. But those who have their nuts and bolts together recognize this gender dysphoria as a mental condition. It should be dealt with as such, not the way the mainstream medical community has dealt with it. So on that basis, you have a substrate, as many young people can be mentally ill. Go back to your youth, your adolescence. You're uncertain. Who am I? How do I make my way? No one likes me. Oh, they didn't talk to me at lunch. Maybe they hate me. Is it something about me? Maybe I hate myself. I mean, I think we've all been there, right? Where we weren't secure in ourselves. Many of us are still there. I'm never secure in myself. I try, but we all have that. But in your adolescence, you get even more. And on that basis, seek ways to tattoo themselves. And I mean that sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively. And I'm wondering, Jerome, if that's not maybe a substrate upon which people can influence these people in terrible, demonic ways. I said earlier on my weekday show that this is Satan, pure Satan at work here. But what say you?
You are absolutely correct. And so just to preface, I do have individuals that I'm associated with that are quote unquote non-binary or trans, including minors that are confused that instead of being encouraged to follow through with it and being said, let's go and get you this experimental sort of thing, the parents involved with that are trying to be as supportive as they can, but trying to postpone and get other avenues of help.
Sure.
And yes, you are correct in the fact that there are comorbidities that go along with the trans ideology that make them susceptible to this sort of thing. I would argue personally, trans people are it's not the cause of this sort of thing. It's a symptom that leads to this sort of thing. So in regards to that, yes, cosmetic alterations to your body through hormones, through amputations of potential body parts, stuff like that. The parts of why they think that's going to help is, on the one hand, usually it's autism and imposter syndrome and severe depression. Those are the three overwhelmingly consistent things that contribute to people that pursue this. And the other part of it is, I would consider it medical malpractice. But at the end of the day, to the satanic element, yes, you're absolutely correct. There is a group called 764. I've been trying to raise the alarm on them since 2022 when they tried to prey on the minor of somebody that I care about that I was involved with back then. And this is a group that quite literally does worship Satan, and not in the satanic panic way. I mean, quite literally, they view Satan as the summation of all things evil and horrible, and they view that as something to replicate. They find people that are susceptible. So it doesn't have to be a trans individual. It can be anybody that feels like an outcast, a loner, a loser. And they try to use online avenues to go and recruit these people so that they can advance what is known as an accelerationist ideology. And it's not
explain that.
So accelerationism, if you to back up in history to where this term sort of came from, it would come from people like Timothy McVeigh, who thought that the Oklahoma bombing was justified and that the Turner Diaries could become a reality to start a race war. Charles Manson, helter skelter, kill these celebrities, make it look like black people did it, cause a race war, they'll come out on top. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, that was his whole thing, is we need to accelerate the collapse of society and go back to primitivism. So that is the ideology. It's not like with communism where the end goal is to have a communist government come in. It is quite literally cause as much chaos and damage and terror and evil as you possibly can to get everybody else not affected, divided, and fighting with each other to the point where that will cause its own collapse of society. And the end goal is that they find this amusing. They find it funny. They just do it to indulge in the sake of violence.
Okay, well, is this related to the Cloward-Piven strategy, which is a political strategy? I think they came about in the 60s to basically mobilize and utilize militant sort of anti-poverty groups and go on that thread, but with the same ultimate aim to just burn it all down. Is it the same? Is it a parallel kind of a thing?
So in essence, I would say I love the fact that you also know that strategy, because every time I quote that, somebody looks at me like I'm a little goofy. But no, so the idea,
well, we know you're a little goofy, but not on this not on this way. Not
okay, fair enough.
In all the right ways. In all the right ways.
But yeah, so the end goal of that strategy is ultimately to end wealth inequality by making everybody equally poor, and then whatever governmental things.
Yeah.
So to the extent that the modus operandi, the means of achieving that are similar, the end goal of that strategy actually kind of has a desired outcome that in their minds, which is stupid, but it's equal poverty.
Oh, it's with communism and socialism. They have a roadmap, and this is how you get from A to B, and B is well defined as a socialist communist kind of a construct. Okay.
What makes the 764 group and accelerationism as an ideology more dangerous than that is that they don't have any end goal that they want to achieve except the most amount of terror and death and destruction that they can personally contribute to. And this is actually the third shooter. I sent you the Daily Mail article, and you know, for what it is, it's Daily Mail. But this is the third spree shooter that has targeted children, that has been linked to this group, that is confirmed to have at the very least been inspired by and knows the ideology and the iconography used by this group. And that we are playing right into that. We are looking only at the dog whistles that appeal to us to make our case on our side, and the left is doing the exact same thing. The left is only looking at what confirms what they want to be true about the shooter. When really, it's clear as day to me, at least, if you really go through the manifesto, the YouTube videos, and the imagery and the phrases that were written on the gun in the magazine, this is somebody that didn't have a centralized, I'm going to do this for my, like when people were pledging allegiance to ISIS back in 2015 for the terror attacks. This is different. This is somebody that just wanted to say, how many people can I really truly offend? How can I keep this in the media cycle longer? How can I get people to blame each other and fight over this and continue that chaos and continue making a thing? Because I hate myself so much and I feel so lonely and so isolated, and I'm just so mad at the world. What can I possibly do? And they're successful. They're getting exactly what they want, even though they're dead. And I just think that is something that needs to be brought up. This is the same group when the Louisiana AG filed the lawsuit against Roblox for child grooming and for child abuse being prevalent within that game. This is the same group that uses that to recruit children that they sexually exploit and produce child abuse material from, and then oftentimes get them to kill themselves. This is the exact same group.
Yeah, I mean, I think many thoughts stream through my mind as you're discussing this. It's not surprising that there are predatory, probably adults, or at least complicit and sympathetic, probably 20 to 30-year-old people that must be behind these kinds of schemes. And secondly,
15 to 20. The people that run these groups, the Cash Patel and the FBI are aware of, the leaders and the founders of this group, and the people that are 15 years old to about 22 years old. That is
15 to 20.
That's how young. That's why I'm surprised we're not talking about this more as in general.
We'll have to talk about it later, because the thing I'm thinking about too is the thoughts that run through my mind are violent video games and exposure at the wrong time and in the wrong way without the right supervision. And the second, and again, just questions and thoughts. The second thing that comes through my mind is Mad Max. When you talk about, what's the goal here? I mean, Mad Max, the people that you see depicted on that screen in those movies, I really like. They're fun movies. They're just interesting. They're so creative, but they're having fun. They're enjoying the carnage. And it reminds me of that. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, let's look. Susie Moore is going to be with us. I don't know if she wants to talk about Mad Max and 764 and everything, but she's very well versed in so many things. But we do want to talk with her, I think, right away about the tariff ruling that came down from the appeals court. We'll roll around back to this. I have some real problems with what some mainstream people have said about this matter, this shooting. But let's pivot a little bit and talk with Susie about the appeals court decision that came down late yesterday afternoon and other issues on our world and in our time. This is Randy Tobler along with Jerome. We are the Tobler Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1 on a Labor Day weekend. Glad you're with us. We'll return.
Randy Tobler.
It's my favorite show in the entire world.
This is News Talk STL.
This whole thing's got me thinking about how privileged I've been. America's a wonderful country. If I were a black man, I'd be furious. We're getting frustrated.
Number one for live and local
conservative talk.
There are certain issues that we need improvement. They would rather have this country on its knees than be successful.
News, analysis, opinion.
We have common sense, and the Democrats have none.
101.9 and 94.1.
And I appreciate the discussion.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Are uneven concrete surfaces causing you headaches? Polytime Concrete Leveling and Restoration has the solution. We're a veteran and family-owned business offering long-lasting solutions for all your concrete problems. From precision concrete leveling to our superior restoration services, our precision polyjacking outperforms traditional mudjacking any day. Call Polytime at 636-487-3282 for a free estimate or visit itspolytime.com. Mention Newstalk STL and get $125 off any job of $600 or more, or 10% off your service.
Hey, your mattress called. It's tired of being tired. This Labor Day, starting September 5th, upgrade your sleep at Snooze Mattress Company in Chesterfield Valley, where your next great bed is waiting. Save up to $725 on top brands like Tempur-Pedic, Serta, Beautyrest, Stearns & Foster, and King Coil. Plus, try Dream Mapping, our technology that scans your body's pressure points and matches you to the perfect mattress. No guesswork, just real comfort, 0% easy financing, and local no-pressure service. Get in here, because if you don't snooze, you lose.
Hey, it's Jamie Allman here with my good friend Rob Very, St. Louis Bath and Renovation, STLBR.com, and you've got some things with which to wow our people.
Are you tired of cleaning on Saturdays? Let us help you out. Zero grout, zero maintenance products for you and your home.
And you want to talk to people.
Absolutely. You can find us at www.stlbr.com. Send us your info. Book a quick 5-minute phone call with us. We'll see if we're able to help you out.
St. Louis Bath and Renovation, supporting free, common sense, conservative radio, STLBR.com.
Thanks, Jamie.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Psst. Want to hear the best kept secret in St. Louis? Steph's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares. According to our customers, we have the best St. Louis style pizza anywhere, and we can't disagree. Dine in, pick up, or delivery in St. Peters, St. Charles, Lake St. Louis on Pond Fort Trail, and the original Stephanitas in O'Fallon on Veterans Memorial Parkway. Check us out at Steph'sPizza.com. Steph's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church, it's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country, and it's disrespectful to the millions of Americans of faith. And
Well, that's Caroline Leavitt, who properly really went after both Jen Psaki and, of course, Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, who really were denigrating Christians in the wake of the Minneapolis horrific shooting event, because, God forbid, they're praying. Oh, my goodness, prayer. We don't need to pray. We need to take people's guns away. Susie Moore joins us now, host of Red State Radio, 4 p.m. on Sundays here on News Talk STL, deputy managing editor for Red State, and a Christian, a mom, an attorney, a writer, a podcaster, a regular guest, and of course, and a host, of course, News Talk. And she joins us now. So, Susie, I don't know how you do all you do, but as you think about this event and the denigration of Christians, sometimes explicitly and other times sort of tangentially, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that there's such a tendency, a knee-jerk tendency by many people to react to every situation with, the quickest, snarkiest hot take they can put out there because of, social media clout, I guess, or to score points on the opposition. And I understand that mentality when you're talking about, political football issues, but when you're talking about a tragedy of this scope, when it's so recent and so raw, to just immediately go to that it's soulless. And I think it speaks to the fact that there are far too many people who have allowed their partisanship to cloud their perspective. Mm-hmm. And this was a horrible situation Wednesday morning, and one that hit me very emotionally, and I was very raw over it, and I was trying to kind of marshal our coverage of it and make sure that we were handling everything properly, and so I was trying to kind of be intellectual about it, but it was very difficult. And then to see those types of reactions immediately after was very, just very disheartening. Yeah. I'm interested from a legal perspective as an attorney, what you think about system of early warning and early help. My thoughts range from this report that came out yesterday, Susie, that apparently there had been a call to the home at some time in the past for what sounds like a mental health issue. And let's speculate. We don't know, but let's speculate that there was some incident. Either the parents called or he called or some, the police had been called, and apparently nothing really came of it. I'm thinking of Charles Krauthammer, God rest his soul, who called for the reinstitution of long-term mental institutions for people who are schizophrenic, who are psychotic, medium to long-term. But in the wake of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you're too young to remember that, but I remember it. I'm familiar with it, though.
After that came out, man, all of a sudden I knew that the stats are clear. There were abuses that went on in those mental institutions. Yeah. But Charles Krauthammer, a pretty smart guy, a fairly moderate, right-wing guy, said, look, we've got to rethink what we're doing with people that are so out of bounds of normative behavior, because a few of them are going to act out. From a legal perspective, can we ever hope to get back there and balance people's rights with safety?
That is, I think, at the heart of so much that surrounds these mass shooting incidents and a lot of what is going on in our society. It comes back to mental health. And I think the reason that we see so frequently the immediate move, folks pivot towards gun control or other solutions is because those seem a little bit more concrete and simple than the idea of tackling mental health, which, as you note, has both mental health components and legal components. You have to find a way to balance keeping people safe from themselves and from people around them and their constitutional freedoms. And it's not there is no easy answer to it. I do think from a legal perspective, yes, there are ways that you can implement programs, laws, regulations that allow for people to be treated institutionally. I will be quite honest. I'm very leery of that. We all have to be a little leery of how far that sort of authority is granted. But at the same time, what we're doing to address mental health in this country is not working.
Well, let's think about parents. Let's think about colleagues. Let's think about neighbors. There's a third element here, and it really relates to, I think, a real problem in the criminal justice system in general. More and more people are seen standing by while horrific events unfold. I think of the event outside the jazz festival, where the guy was beat up mercilessly, a couple weeks ago. And I think about the fact that whether you're someone who would like to maybe report your loved one who's gone off the deep end and has lost it and they're psychotic and they really need help, but they're psychotic and you don't know what they're going to do, and you don't believe that the justice system will protect you, or whether you're a bystander and you're a witness or someone planning to do something and you don't know that you're going to get protection because we're too soft on criminals. On the other hand, I mean, there's a whole nother element to this too. So I don't know the rights of the would-be perp on the one hand, but protection of people that would call out the would-be perp, that's totally lost on us. There's no protection. Look, I've cared for women in life, and I can't tell you the countless numbers that are afraid to call out their domestic abusive spouse or partner because they feel like restraining orders mean nothing. It's not till someone gets maimed or killed that, now we'll do something about it. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on here, Susie, that I think our criminal justice system is not doing a good job with.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. And I can't pretend that I have the answers to it. With all of these things, there's the balance that has to be found between, taking legal measures against people and protecting people's freedom. So protecting people's safety and protecting their freedom. And I mean, that's the never-ending tension in a free society.
Well, but can we all agree that a well-armed citizen in the right place at the right time can at least reduce the in the moment damage? I think we've seen a lot of evidence about that. The NRA reports on that every day, things that don't make the headlines, but everyday citizens protecting themselves because they're armed. God forbid the day comes when not only does our criminal justice system let us down, but they take our guns away to defend ourselves.
Well, and that's the key thing. I mean, so often the response by those, particularly on the left, is, okay, well, the solution is to do away with the guns. And they come at it in several different ways, but that heart of what they're advocating is removing guns. But the result of that, of course, is to remove guns from law-abiding people and from people who need the guns to protect themselves from people who are crazy and who are, do pose a threat. But yeah, I mean, particularly in the school shooting situation, that's been brought up, over and over again. And I think we've seen, at least in some instances, a move towards, allowing for staff and teachers and such to arm themselves. And I understand why the emotional reaction to that, particularly by people who aren't comfortable with guns and aren't familiar with them, is just having the gun there presents a problem. But there's that whole idea that somehow the gun by itself is danger. It's not. It's a tool.
Right.
It's who's using the gun and who possesses the gun that's the issue.
Yes.
And if you're a criminal intent on doing ill and you're rational, at least semi-rational, and there's a very good chance a particular location has people in it that are armed, you're probably not going to go to that location. You're going to go to the one that is a soft target, the one that is, has the gun-free zone. And we saw that. I think that's been mentioned in this killer's and his writings and in his musings was, basically going to gun-free zones because those were easier, just like the guy in Aurora did.
When I ran a little hospital up in Northeast Missouri, Susie, I was not joking when I continued to urge the board to, hey, let's go rogue and let's put a sign outside our building. Of course, it was against statutes, I think, but a hospital of all places. And we've seen shootings in hospitals. Let's put a sign here that said, many well-armed people here, don't mess. And instead of the sign that says no guns here, I'm sorry. I think it'd be a different story. I don't know. Hey, we're talking with Susie Moore, the so well-informed and just so active writer, broadcaster. Of course, she hosts Red State Radio here on News Talk STL on Sunday afternoons. And I want to talk about this federal appeals court, the D.C. Court of Appeals, that came down and really, not all, but threatened the Trump tariffs when they said that not constitutional. The tariffs that are the retaliatory ones, and the ones there were two categories that were used. Tell us about what it means and where this is going, because it absolutely put chaos into the markets, if nothing else, and our business community too.
Yeah, there were a bunch of court cases decided this week, or rulings that came down this week. And I yesterday morning kind of half jokingly said, well, it's Friday going into a holiday weekend. Expect there to be some big news story late in the day. I didn't expect that it was going to be the ruling on the tariffs from the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals. And of course, they handed it down at like 4 o'clock, and it was a 127-page opinion. So I have not, to be quite fair, I have not had a chance to read the whole thing. I was surprised by it, because this is the Court of Appeals that put a pause on the district court. Well, it's called the Court of International Trade, is the district court level court on the trade front. And when they struck down the tariffs back in like May, the appellate court put a pause on that. They issued a stay, and in doing so, it kind of signaled that they perhaps thought that the lower court had it wrong. The case was argued before the appellate court at the end of July, and then yesterday they came down with their decision. And in a 7-4 ruling, they said, yeah, we think that the president exceeded his statutory authority in issuing these executive orders and implementing this set of tariffs. And that's obviously sending shockwaves through everybody. Like, what does this mean? Now, the one thing that they did do was they basically held their ruling in abeyance. They said they're not going to issue their mandate until the middle of October. What that does, of course, is allow the administration to, file an appeal with the Supreme Court and or to adjust its actual practical measures, so that regardless if that ruling does go into effect, by the time it does, there will be some mitigating force against it. And I do expect we'll see that the administration takes this up to the Supreme Court. This is one I'm not 100% sure on. I'm not terribly familiar with the statute that they're talking about. I'd have to take a really close look at it. I have mixed feelings on tariffs. I don't know. Is it possible that the way that this administration approached it did exceed what's provided in the statute? It's possible. But I also know that the courts have had this sort of instinctive resistance to allowing this particular executive to exercise his authority. So I don't know how it's going to shake out. The saving grace to me is the fact that this is not going to affect for several months. And
I guess the administration has until October 14th or 7th or somewhere to give. I would think though that if they don't end up, if the administration loses in an appeal here, ultimately, that I imagine the Supreme Court's going to have to take this up quickly, because the markets will be in chaos with uncertainty. The economy will really suffer, and something needs to be done quickly.
Yeah,
but we'll see. I know you'll be unpacking.
Up on the emergency docket.
You'll be unpacking this tomorrow, I'm sure, after you cuddle up and curl up with that 127-page ruling today, in between bites of the rib and the corn on the cob, I'm sure, Susie Moore.
Right.
And thanks so much for being with me. I always enjoy our periodic conversations, really do. And enjoy your holiday weekend. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Randy. You too.
All right. Yeah, this is a bombshell of a ruling that came down. And I think, there's no one better to help us unpack what it means immediately and in the medium and long term than Dave Hebert, our resident tariff skeptic at a minimum. And he'll be with us at 7:08. So at 7:05, we'll look forward to that. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about Cracker Barrel. We got to have some fun with Cracker Barrel, don't we? I think so. Jerome, you think so? Let's do it when we come back on News Talk STL 101.9 94.1, The Tobler Show.
She my pride and joy. She my sweet little baby. I'm a little lover boy.
You know, we need to step aside and take a little look at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles, the wonderful things they do. It's quality service, but the breadth of services they do, from aligners to cosmetic dentistry to dental implants, dentures, of course, the core role that they play, I know in me and my friends and my family's life, the general and family dentistry. And then there's I call them the fun things. They can be very important. Those are the Botox and dermal fillers as well. So look, there's a lot of opportunities to get very best care, the greatest cutting edge technology, and really wonderful people. They're just fun to interact with as medical professionals. As a patient, I enjoy it. It's fun. Dr. Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer, and of course the great hygienists and other staff out there. The front office is beautiful as well. So learn about Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. If you're looking for great dental care, check out advanceddentistrynow.com. That's advanceddentistrynow.com.
The Democrat Party is going to have to go back toward the center.
News, analysis, and opinion.
I've never called a talk show before, but this just irked me.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Retirement planning used to be easy. You put in your 40 years with the company, get the gold watch, and life's good, right? Wrong. Randy Tobler here. Planning for retirement today involves balancing critical decisions regarding your investments, pensions, Social Security, and more. That's why I'm urging you to start planning now. It's also why you should connect with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. They bring a combined 100 years of wealth management experience to help you with your retirement plan. You can hear Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert every Saturday morning at 9 during On the Money here on News Talk STL 1019. Their team is ready to help you design your retirement plan with the care and commitment you deserve. Request your complimentary retirement plan consultation today at clearpathinvesting.com or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
I'm taking what they're giving because I'm working for a living.
I'm an elevator technician.
I'm a construction superintendent.
I work for the police department.
I'm an accountant.
I work at FedEx.
I work 3 part-time jobs.
News Talk STL celebrates
Keep up the good work.
Labor Day 2025 by paying tribute to the American workforce.
This is a working man's holiday.
Simply the best in the world. A reminder from the hardworking folks at Dry Creek Lumber, Mosquito Joe's, and Dean Gregorio's Foods.
Forget the chit-chat. Get to work.
Looking for the best selection of firearms in the St. Louis region? Drive to Osage County Guns. Conveniently located off I-70, just 25 minutes from St. Charles. We've got thousands of guns in stock, the largest selection of handguns, rifles, and shotguns around. Trade in or sell your old guns for cash and shop our wide variety of premium Winchester ammunition, made right here in the USA. Visit us online at ocgmo.com, or better yet, make the drive to Osage County Guns and see why we're the St. Louis region's favorite.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Hey, it looks like you like to get up early, so Monday through Friday, listen to me from 5:30 to 9. Mike Ferguson here, and you are listening to the Randy Tobler Show right here on News Talk STL.
Now, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and Tobler Nation, when I'm out and Jerome's holding forth, I'm thankful because things are in good hands. I know that, but I also get FOMO because we're not hanging out together, on the show. And now I have like magnum ultimate psychological distress level FOMO because I am going to be on vacation with the annual family get together. I call it the generations, family thing we do at one or another place away from home. When a big event's coming up, at with News Talk STL and great sponsors with the Hammond Institute, and that's Steve Schwartz. Tell us about it, Jerome.
So, if you are a fan of free markets, learning about enterprise, how it makes our country stronger, safer, better, and why we are still better than every other one of our allies, then you should show up to the Steve Forbes event at Linwood University on September 18th. The tickets are free. You do have to RSVP because, I mean, we're expecting over 500 people to be showing up.
Yeah,
so, of course, to comply with the fire marshal and, safety regulations and all that, they want to make sure that they have space for you if you plan to show up. But it's going to be a fantastic event. I'm going to be there. I'll be taking notes for Dr. Tobler so he doesn't feel too left out. And I know Mike's going to be there as well as many others from our amazing station. So we'd love to have you guys show up. And also it sends a great message that our listeners are engaged, our community, our friends and family of the station all actually care about these issues so we can get more of these events going on. So go to newstalkstl.com. Look for the banner saying sign up for the Steve Forbes event and then come join us September 18th.
What I love about these events that happen from time to time with these, high profile, really deeply influential people is we can all get talking points when we're talking to our friends, family, neighbors at the water cooler in the appropriate way at the right time. And, you're armed with some facts and some analysis that then you can bring to the table when people maybe who are unengaged but might be interested, people who are persuadable. It's good to come armed with some good information. Well, apparently some people at Cracker Barrel last year, as early as last May, were not easily persuaded on what seemed to be a wrong direction by an investor there, a guy whose parents emigrated from Persia, actually. And he's on the board there. He had turned Steak and Shake around, back, I think, in the early teens. And they call him Big. His name is hard to pronounce for me, but Sardar Biglari is his name, Sardar Biglari. And he had criticized this unfolding plan back in May of 2024. And Julie Massino, the woke boss there, the CEO, had said, oh, we're going to have this transformation. Well, they were losing money. They'd already changed some of the ways they prepared food, and customers were talking about that anyway. In November, he put out a 120-page slide deck presentation called Cracker Barrel in Crisis next to the company's longtime logo, of Herschel and all, that was taken away with this very generic vanilla. I mean, I could have come up with this in about 2 seconds. I wouldn't have needed AI, and they paid $700 million for this and the conversion that went on it. All the while, there was another guy on the board who, get this, had a marketing company that specialized in DEI, and he was driving a lot of this crazy, kooky transformation and really undoing a brand. That guy's name was Gilbert Davila. He had run a diversity firm for 15 years, previously worked at Disney. And so these guys were at it. Well, you can see what happened. Now, here is the founder. I want to play for you this. The founder, one of the co-founders, Tommy Lowe of Cracker Barrel. I don't know how old this guy is, but this was an interview with him. I thought this was fascinating. Sometimes you just don't need to change what's working. And when you do, you screw it up. And he knows, listen.
Logo rolled out the other day.
Oh, that's crazy. That's nothing. That's a bland nothing. It's pitiful.
Do you think she knows the story of Cracker Barrel?
I don't think so. I heard she was a Taco Bell, but what's Taco Bell know about Cracker Barrel and country food? And the food is something that they need to work on. Spending $700 million to do that is all I've been doing. Not just throwing money out the street.
Now, it's interesting. I saw that, and then I saw an insider talking with a host at Fox Business. Guy had been with the company for a long time. He said, look, I can't tell you everything, but in the back of the house, back in the kitchen, the way we source things and the way we prepare it has changed over the years. He's now an ex-Cracker Barrel guy. And he says, I love the brand. I go there still. I have friends who work there. But he said, they've got to change their core business. It's not just a change of the paint and a facelift and slicking things up and change the logo. This reminds me of the typical woke path. This is where the woke progressive left goes wrong all the time, politically and everything. Remember how during Biden's administration, it was the right policy. We just didn't message it right. More sustainable energy, Open the borders. It's all good stuff. Trust us. It's just the messaging that's wrong. Same story, different chapter, right?
Yeah, and it's been interesting the pushback to the pushback essentially. Because I know there are people that are outraged that they don't know why they're outraged, and then on the left side or the Dem side or whatever group of people these are anymore, that they're like, well, you guys were making fun of the whole Bud Light thing, and now you're outraged about this. Well, Cracker Barrel is very Americana. It's very much reminiscent and nostalgic of the rural, more small town community get together, and I personally have some very, very, very nostalgic memories, given that part of my extended family and my grandmother's side are farmers and they're Southern Illinois people, so that was like our meetup spot where we could all get together. And so it's not just about what a lot of people on the left are saying, where it's like, well, you're only mad if a guy had done this, but you guys would be fine, but it's a woman and you just don't like women, or you guys don't. It's a false outrage. It's completely valid and justified to say this is something that is in our modern corporate sterilized bland, taking the fun out of McDonald's culture, that having something like a Cracker Barrel and it's very much. I'm trying to articulate the words better. It is something that is reminiscent of a time that people long for, that they have memories for. It's an experience. Yeah. And to have the former co-founder or former CEO, I can't remember if they were the founder or not, but to have them come out and even say, yes, the focus should be on improving the food, the recipes, everything else around that is already beloved. Just focus on fixing the little things. Don't improve. Right. What is it? Evolution, not revolution. I think that accurately summarizes it.
You're right. Their big problem, I understand, is they were losing, even though their gross revenues were going up, their net revenue was going down because of this is going to become a growing problem. And the tariffs, we're going to talk with Dave Hebert about this issue, tariffs, what they mean, the appeals court decision, what that means in just a few minutes at 7:05. But this is reminiscent of a lot of what we've heard from the business community with the rising cost of labor. And I mean, it's getting bad. Their net revenues were tanking a little bit because the labor costs with where's it coming from? Mandated minimum wage. Look, a 15-year-old pimple-faced kid in high school with his first job or her first job probably needs to be bussing tables with a benevolent manager who helps them learn about showing up on time and saying yes sir and no ma'am and smiling even though you're tired from last night's late burning the midnight oil, and probably making $10 an hour. But that will serve them well as they climb the ladder later in life. That's the way many of us started. Most of us started, I think. And I think that there's just these minimum wages where, you walk into a busing job and you're supposed to be making, quote, a living wage right off the bat. I don't know. I just think we got it wrong, and it's going to hurt American business. That's my opinion. We'll see what Dave thinks when we talk with him about that. Now, Jerome, in the minute we have here, I do have to tell you, I do get a little butthurt when younger people your age and younger sort of want to throw us older people, out the window. It's like, get out of here. Generational change. It's here. I think that elderly man who was the co-founder of he spoke some wisdom. Do younger people still recognize wisdom in you boomers? You boomers. I hear that all the time. Oh, you boomer.
It sounds like we found your trigger. Yeah, in the last few moments here, there are, I would say, there are people that do value wisdom and of the experienced generation, we'll call you guys.
Yes. Yeah.
Now,
seasoned.
I like that, the seasoned generation. Now, is it as many as it should be? Probably not, because again, a lot of the current political model is I'm always right. I live my truth no matter what's actually true. It's my truth and I get to live it. So maybe we need to see a change there.
Yeah. Well, we're both right, and we're glad you're with us, Tobler Nation, because that makes you right too. Dave Hebert in a minute. Stay tuned.
Just because the record has a groove, don't make it in the groove. But you can tell right away Dr. A when the people start to move.
Patriot Radio. Hey guys, Jefferson County Councilman Billy Crow here from Jeffco Patriot Radio. On behalf of Tim Jones and I just want to thank you for making Jeffco Patriot Radio the #1 listened to show on Sundays here on News Talk STL, where we dive into all the things happening in and around Jefferson County. Check Tim Jones and I out on Jeffco Patriot Radio. this and every Sunday at high noon here on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for the Great Window World. You know, just over the last 20 years of Window World being in St. Louis, they've improved the look and thermal efficiency of more than 76,000 customers in St. Louis. Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now Window World is now offering 36 months, same as cash financing, with approved credit. Call them today at 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800.
As you know, Vincent's is not just my favorite jeweler. Vincent's is my only jeweler. And I was in recently looking at lab-grown diamonds. These are not glass. They are actual diamonds, but they cost a fraction of a natural diamond. You can check them out at Vincent's.com, or better yet, see these lab-grown diamonds in person. You're going to be amazed at the beauty and the price. Vincent's Jewelers, Vincent'sJewelers.com.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC, Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Stories come to life at your local parks and forests. They're places of wonder, and they're closer than you think. Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Missouri's Republican governor is calling a special legislative session to redraw the state's U.S. House districts. The announcement on Friday came from Governor Mike Kehoe, and it came as President Trump urges Republican-led states to reshape the district lines to give the party a better shot at retaining control of Congress in next year's midterm elections. On the Democrat side, the same effort is underway in the state of California, trying to pick up about 5 new Democrat-controlled districts. A federal appeals court has ruled President Trump illegally used emergency powers to impose sweeping tariffs, but for now they have left him in place pending an appeal. Meanwhile, Bernie Bennett reports a new Congressional Budget Office report indicates those tariffs could reduce the national debt by about $4 trillion over the next 10 years.
A new report released Friday from the Congressional Budget Office states, quote, "We project that increases in tariffs implemented during the period from January 6th, 2025 to August 19th, 2025 will decrease primary deficits by $3.3 trillion if the higher tariffs persist for the 2025 to 2035 period." CBO's Director Philip Swagel wrote, quote, "By reducing the need for federal borrowing, those tariff collections will also reduce federal outlays for interest by an additional $0.7 trillion. As a result, the changes in tariffs will reduce total deficits by $4 trillion altogether." Bernie Bennett reporting.
AAA spokeswoman Alexa Diaz says there aren't as many people traveling this Labor Day weekend compared to some of the other big holidays.
Labor Day weekend, it's the end of summer, and some people may just be ready to get into their fall routines and may not want to travel. Now, what a lot of people do over Labor Day weekend is take a short road trips or maybe even staycation.
More than 17 million people were expected to travel by air from Thursday through Wednesday. Labor Day celebrates the American worker with the holiday honored on the first Monday of September. This is townhall.com.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting outside, getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pains, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your life. Head over to ReliefFactor.com or give them a call at 800-4RELIEF and get their 3-week quick start for just $19.95. Relief Factor is the daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by a team of doctors, it uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask the pain, it helps reduce or eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take Relief Factor, the more effective it is to get your days going without any pain. So if we get you out of pain by taking their 3-week quick start, it's only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Simply call 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, wherever you're having pain, neck, shoulders, hips, knees. Don't let it keep you from living the life you want to live. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800-4RELIEF.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. The Vic Porcelli Show.
NPR, guess what? Got defunded, and they're going to close down operations. If they're not going to get federal funding, well, then guess what? There are plenty of radio salespeople out there in the United States who can sell time. Big time. You know why they don't sell hire a sales team? Because nobody will buy advertising because they suck so bad. Oh my God. You don't see people.
You're so correct. That's it right there.
Vic Porcelli, live and local, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Is your backyard a battleground every evening? Swatting, itching, kids running back inside? Hey, Tim Jones here. I just found out about a new local company, Mosquito Nix, that can take care of all that and more. They offer permanent automatic mosquito and tick protection, not just fogging, real coverage you don't have to think about. They've helped over 40,000 families nationwide take back their yards with their automatic mosquito control system. Now they're offering a free fogging treatment to introduce themselves to St. Louis families. Call 636-698-1980 now or visit mosquitonix.com. Say goodbye to bug bites this summer. Service area restrictions do apply. Tell them Tim Jones sent you. Ask about their back-to-school special. St. Louis summers don't last forever, but mosquito bites shouldn't either. Call 636-698-1980. Visit mosquitonix.com. That's mosquitonix.com. This is a limited time offer.
Are the days of a personal doctor gone? Not at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. I'm Dr. Randy Tobler to share how our design is putting the care back into healthcare. Plain and simple, our members, not insurance companies, get our exclusive focus. That means same or next day appointments, responsive answers to your concerns, and a no-spin, big tool chest approach. It's about time you get serious time devoted to your medical needs. To learn about healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Looking for a hardware store that treats you like family? Welcome to True Value Schneider's Hardware, your local gem in Old Town St. Peters. For over 100 years, we're proudly serve you St. Charles County, providing everything from lawn and garden supplies to plumbing and electrical. Need a bolt or fastener? We've got you covered. And don't forget, we're a steel dealership. Whether you need sales, parts, or service, ask for Charlie or Jerry when you come in. We're here to help. Call 636-278-4461 or visit us online at truevalue.com/Schneiders.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Ken and I have a 3-day weekend, but we will be back with you Tuesday with World War II veterans. Tuesday at 9:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Leave a late show, still feeling alive. Want a place to go, round about the fire, down to the doctor.
This is Larry Connors. Right now, you're listening to Dr. Randy Tobler. Informative, engaging, enjoy. And I invite you to listen to the Larry Connors USA Daily Report, Monday through Friday at 6.
Hey, well, welcome back to the program. Glad you're with us on this Labor Day weekend. Hope that smoker is getting warmed up, ready to do those ribs. You know, you got to put a lot of time into those, several hours. It's going to take several hours. So I always get started a little late, and then we're not eating till 8 o'clock at night. That doesn't make a. I'm sure Dave Hebert, when he does ribs, he starts precisely on time. Everything is beautifully smoked for a few hours, wrapped in aluminum foil for an hour or two, and then put back on for that final touch. And they're absolutely perfect and succulent, because the work he does at the American Institute for Economic Research as a senior research fellow and on his Substack, which is Economics Reality Check, is always precisely cooked. And he joins us now. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing great. That was a flattering introduction. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm sure that you do things well. You economists are very precise, analytical type of people. Even though the government can't get it right with their statistics and the GDP, and it's modified up and down, I'm sure you get it right when you do that. No, really, I do appreciate all the stuff you write and the way it's well sourced and referenced and really very academic in one sense, but clearly messaged in the other. Let's start out with the headlines right away. Then we can get into some of the other weeds. Yesterday, the Appeals Court of D.C., they confirmed this International Trade Court, I think, or the Court of International Trade, who had struck down of the categories of Trump's tariffs. Let's go through what they said, what it means, and if it sticks, what it could mean for the economy and our personal finances ultimately. What does this all mean?
Yeah, so yesterday, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit affirmed that the U.S. Court of International Trade's ruling back in May, I believe it was, that the Trump tariffs using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act are invalidated, right? So the idea is that the president has basically overstepped his bounds by using IEEPA to pass these tariffs. Now, and so in issuing this ruling, the court basically just said, no, you cannot use IEEPA to pass these tariffs. That does not mean that the president cannot use other statutes to impose tariffs. So the 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum, for example, those are going to stay in effect. The extra 25% tariff on India that was just passed this past Monday, or just implemented this past Monday, that will likely stay in effect because that's not using IEEPA in the way that this court just ruled. So the way they ruled is very important. The Court of Appeals invalidated what they call the trafficking tariffs, which is the tariffs that the president imposed on Canada, Mexico, and China for drug-related issues or smuggling. And they also invalidated the reciprocal tariffs based on trade deficits. So basically everything announced on April 2nd and then potentially delayed or extended since then. Okay, so those two categories are invalidated, at least as of right now. Now, this ruling will not take effect until October 14th, during which time the Trump administration will almost certainly file an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will probably agree to hear it, and then we're just going to wait and see what they say.
So it was those two baskets of tariffs. One, okay, they're called trafficking tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and who else? One other.
China.
Okay, China. So I mean, that's the excuse to levy a broad tariff, right? It wasn't just like we're just going to tariff the stuff used to make fentanyl. I mean, it's like that was an excuse. Okay, then you've got the reciprocal tariffs, which is another broad category. So of the universe of tariffs that he has rolled out, what does that appellate ruling encompass? Is it 80%, 90%, less, more?
Yeah. So, I like to be careful with numbers. So I'm not trying to be cagey here. I don't know the exact number of tariffs that are going to be affected by this. It's just because I haven't been able to look at it. This ruling just came out at 5 o'clock yesterday.
But in a large sense, I mean, it's a big swath of the tariffs, right?
Yes, it is a pretty big swath, right? It's not just one or two tariffs here or there. It's a large swath of the president's entire agenda.
Yeah. So was the genesis of the IEEPA Act? Was that like what was the design behind it? What was the real reason when it was passed? Was it about like wartime stuff? Like, hey, we're at war against country A, or they're a terrorist country, so I'm going to do terror. I mean, was it more targeted than this? What appears to be a fairly broad application. I mean, reasonable people would agree. Where you're using this law he's using this law for broad application. What was the original intent of it, or why?
Yeah, so you really hit the nail on the head, right? So this law was passed in 1977, but it's important to note that it's kind of the latest in a long series of laws that Congress has passed, giving the president emergency powers. But what this one is basically recognizing is that Congress is, at some level, by definition and by construction, a very slow-moving and at least ostensibly deliberate body. Right. And so because of that, when there's changing things in the world that necessitate, quick action, right? Even James Madison, one of the founding fathers, agreed that in situations like that, you need someone who can act swiftly and decisively. Ideally, you want that person to be elected at least somewhat by the entire nation as a whole, right? And that one person is the president. And so even the founders agreed that in times of emergency, it makes sense to give presidents a little bit more temporary power that would allow them to act quickly and decisively without having to go through the slow congressional approval process. Now, the distinction here is that in every other instance where IEPA has been used, there has been a directive from Congress to the president to use their emergency powers to accomplish certain goals, right? These goals can be very broad. It could be something like, hey, we need you to put down this national emergency. And that might be all that Congress says. But their point here is that Congress, always before this, has initiated the use of the emergency powers. Okay? It's never been just declared by the president, hey, this is the thing I'm going to do, right? We're in a national emergency, at least not on this scale. Every president does at some level declare a national emergency, but it's about, much smaller things than this, and it's much less, more narrowly applied. Okay, so
we are in a time of a lot of tumultuous power grab by executives. So you're right. I mean, that seems like it's a big deal. Now, if you're a funds manager, Dave, or if you're, sitting in the C-suite of some big company, or even worse, I mean, I think more challenging, if you're a bicycle shop owner on Main Street, what is this? What kind of a message does this send? I mean, the tariffs already, I think, struck fear in the heart of a lot of people for various reasons. What can this mean in terms of the everyday economy to everyday Americans, whether they're employers or employees?
Yeah, so for the next 6 weeks, right, nothing's going to change. All the tariffs are going to remain in place. Everything's going to be exactly how it is right now, and pretty much exactly how President Trump would have handled it anyway. He is going to have to file a petition to the Supreme Court, and they can rule and say, hey, we're going to hear this, but not for a few months. We're going to, issue a suspension and say, hey, tariffs are allowed until we, make our ruling. What could also happen is, since there are other means by which the president can use different emergency powers acts to impose tariffs, right? What will ultimately probably happen is that these tariffs will probably, and I'm trying to be really careful in this one, they'll probably remain just with a different, legal justification. And so do I think that this is going to be, the slam dunk victory that eliminates all of these tariffs? No. Will it eliminate some of them? Probably. Will it make for more paperwork coming out of DC? Absolutely. Right. So this is one of those situations where there's really not a clear victory, at least in the sense of getting back to lower tariffs. This is, however, a clear victory for the rule of law.
Can we, okay, so I mean, we're still in this tariff palooza and seeing how it's going to fall out. As we were conversing by text yesterday, setting up this discussion, you like Four Roses if you're going to have a pour on Labor Day. I tend to like Rowan's Creek, a small the Willett distillery out there in Bardsville, down in near Louisville. The whiskey industry is really suffering. One of those problems is export tariffs being put on us by in their own way retaliating. there's other market forces there. But are you beginning to hear in your analysis or see some sectors that are really beginning to hurt, and it's going to, again, filter down in terms of business expansion, employment to, business leaders, employees, and ultimately consumers in terms of certain sectors that might be hurt because of input costs, tariffs on exports, the whole deal? What are you beginning to see any cracks in the structure?
Of course. I mean, so, one of the things that I do is, I'll look at BLS data, but really BLS data should always be kind of the start of your, analysis and your investigation. It should tell you kind of where to go look and where to dig deeper. So I'm in Michigan, right? Michigan is my home state. I was born and raised here for the overwhelming majority of my adult life. And so this is a place that I care, quite a bit about. My dad was in the automotive industry. My grandfather was in the steel industry here. So this is a big, Michigan and manufacturing and automotive are three big things for me. So I'm paying a lot of attention there. What we're seeing is that a lot of companies, especially in Michigan, but in the Midwest in general, are starting to actually feel the pinch from these tariffs in the form of higher costs. So Ford Motor Company incurred something to the tune of $800 million in the first 3 months of this year alone in tariff-related expenses, right? That's $8.9 million per day, right? With General Motors, it's $1 billion in tariff-related costs in the second quarter. Stellantis, the parent company of Chrysler now, right, lost $2.7 billion in the first 6 months. And really, if we look at that, and we look at just the losses that these three companies alone are experiencing, that's 88,000 manufacturing jobs worth of spending that they've done to try to absorb some of the costs of these tariffs. Then you look around the rest of Michigan, and I'm working on going through more states as well. But what you see is just further and further, harm, right? What we see are things like other manufacturing plants closing. So Cleveland Cliffs idled their Dearborn steel plant. Alcoa is suffering massive losses. Alcoa being one of our aluminum smelting companies, right? This is an industry that's supposed to be protected directly by the tariffs. And they're sitting here saying, no, this is horrible. It's hurting us. Okay, but really, what's more damning and what we're starting to see that's trickling down to consumers is that auto loan delinquencies are on the rise. In fact, they are higher now than they were in 2009 during the height of the Great Recession. Right now, auto loans, those are like the last bill that people skip out on paying. Because if you lose your car, you can't get the kids to work, you can't get to the grocery store, and you can't get the kids to school, right? And you can't get to work, and you can't get to the grocery store, right? So people will almost always pay their auto bill before they pay everything else. When we see delinquencies on that one go up, that is a big indicator that something is going wrong. And all of this has started happening since January. So to me, that's evidence that it's a tariff-related issue.
Okay. All right. It's 7:20 Central Time. You're on Eastern Time, right?
Yeah.
I hate to ask you this, but I'm going to. I want to, if you can go and check the coals, make sure everything's ready on the smoker. We've got to talk about, I want everyone out there to think of, picture the marquee here. We got Scott Bessent saying, look at this, $500 billion. Look at GDP upgraded in quarter two to 3.2%. And we got Dave Hebert going, not so quick, Scott. Can we just have a little Bessent versus Hebert throwdown when we come back and talk about where this is all going? Okay, we're going to do that. And we're going to, the other topic I'm concerned about my friends and my colleagues and my neighbors and all of my great Tobler Nation audience here. I'm worried about people's jobs with AI. I really am. And I'm just wondering where that's all going in the context of what we're talking about with our macroeconomics as well. So let's continue the conversation. Dave's going to go check his grill. I'm going to go fill up on coffee, and we'll be back in a few and continue the economic forum of Saturday morning on the Tobler Show. Stay tuned.
This is a 100-year catastrophe, and it's just so horrible to watch.
Questions.
There have been some 850 rescues.
Are we raising the right ones?
The Trump administration is making deep cuts to weather forecasting.
You have to look at the Doge-Trump cuts.
Will we ever get answers?
Nobody there has said anything about that they didn't get everything that they wanted immediately or that they needed.
St. Louis's place to talk about it.
What happened? Why did it happen?
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Join Aaron Tarlow every Sunday night at 9 on News Talk STL for Shall Not Be Infringed, your voice for Second Amendment rights and firearms education. Brought to you by DG Firearms, Kevin's Guns, Osage County Guns, and Full Circle Reloading and Firearms.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
Are you tired of chiropractors who rush treatments and overcharge? At Dr. Toby's place, Dr. Tobin Lingefelter takes a different approach.
I believe in listening to my patients, understanding their needs, and treating the whole person.
Whether it's back pain, headaches, or joint issues, Dr. Toby is committed to your complete wellness journey.
I'm not satisfied until you're feeling your best.
Dr. Toby's place, where your wellness journey begins. Call 314-221-4913 or visit softwavemo.com. That is softwave, W-A-V-E, mo.com.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
You can join in the mission to remember our fallen heroes, honor those who currently serve and their families, and teach younger generations about the value of freedom. A $17 donation to Wreaths Across America sponsors a fresh balsam remembrance wreath. These wreaths have become a symbol of America's respect for those who have served and no longer walk with us. Sponsor a wreath today. Visit wreathsacrossamerica.org or call 877-385-9504.
The Department of Veterans Affairs is so innovative, it not only improves the lives of veterans, it transforms the lives of healthcare professionals who serve them with access to the latest technologies and remarkable benefits. Transform your future at vacareers.va.gov.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. Come hang out with Ken Williams and me every Monday through Friday from 9 to 11. But right now, it's back to the Randy Tobler Show on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Thanks, Vic. I love being on with Vic every Tuesday, or at least most Tuesdays. Once in a while, I get caught in the office and can't do it, and I do, and I get FOMO then. We're talking with Dave Hebert from the American Institute of Economic Research and also purveyor of the Economics Reality Check on Substack. Got about a little less than 10 minutes here. I want to cover a couple of things. Thanks for hanging with us, Dave. Bessent keeps, and look, I think all of us are who really want this economy to roar. We want our personal finances to roar. We want to see a reversal of, a lot of things that Biden did so wrong. And we want to see this grand experiment of tariffs and the economic change that is so rapid and broad sweeping. We want to see it work. And we see a lot of flag waving with Scott Bessent and others, and Howard Lutnick saying, look at it, look at the Peter Navarro, look at this, all of this tariff money coming in, our GDP is 3.2%. What are you skeptics saying? And on the other hand, we got a lot of skeptics like you. I think like many of us are saying, wait a minute, I know people, I'm talking to people that they're really biting their fingernails to the quick because it's hurting them. And you previewed that in the last segment. I mean, Scott Bessent's not a bad guy. He's a good guy. Peter Navarro's a good guy. I've interviewed him. He wants America to be first. Where are they getting it wrong? And could it be that they're right, Dave? Let's give the best case. Could it be that they're right and this works out really well in the midterms or smashing red wave?
Yeah, so look, the best argument that they can make is twofold: the national defense argument and the negotiations argument. Okay, so no one can deny, even I'll fully admit, as a very skeptical person of tariffs, okay, even I will fully admit that tariffs can be used in the interest of national defense. The challenge I put there is that no one ever thinks about the alternative, which would be lowering trade barriers. Because at the end of the day, the real quest is to have access to things like steel and aluminum. It's not necessarily to produce them ourselves, right? It's to have access to them. And if we can increase access to them, that makes us, by definition, safer, right? It's the same argument that, people will give that say, hey, Dave, what's the most important thing you can do for your family? Like, well, make sure that they're fed. Okay, then you should grow food in your backyard, right? It's like, that's not true. We know that's not true. What I should do is find other grocery stores or farmers markets or other sources of food that I can put on my table, right? Now, it could be the case that I need to grow my own food. That's plausible, but there are alternatives. And I just want to hear an honest reckoning of those alternatives before we jump to the tariff gun. The second, major reason for tariffs would be for negotiation. And this is what everyone who's talking about, Bessent and Trump and Lutnick and Navarro, they're all saying that this is all part of a grand negotiation, strategy. And maybe it is, but negotiations are things where things come down, right? Where we have fewer barriers to trade, where we make things more accessible for everyone. Now, sure, maybe other countries come down more than we do, but the point is that we both come down. There would be a bilateral reduction in trade barriers, including tariffs. And what we're seeing right now is basically an across-the-board increase in trade barriers from the United States, with occasional reductions in trade barriers from other countries. Now, that's not bilateral. That's not winning in negotiation. That's just imposing more costs on the American people. Okay, so if those are the reasons for tariffs, you're going to find a compelling case coming out of me, right? I'm going to sit here and be a pretty big champion, as long as at the end of the day, the result is that the American people have better access to all goods, and the rest of the people in the world have better access to our goods. If that's happening, I have no problem with temporary tariffs. But what we're seeing right now is the opposite of that.
Yes.
To Bessent's point about the three, go ahead.
So there's a lane then for, like, when it comes to this, the magnet and the special metals, until we get our mining going out in the West and others. There's an argument to be made on those items. Maybe medical equipment that is unilaterally coming from China, that, you've got to somehow protect your national security and health interest, right? So there may be a lane in certain sectors to hammer people, because we don't want to be dependent on imports from enemies, do we? Because they could shut the spigot off in no time at all.
Of course, right? So that's the national defense argument, right?
Okay.
We want to make sure that we always have access to these goods. But Randy, this is just like saying, we got to make sure that you grow your own food just in case Schnucks decides that they're going to stop selling you food. And it's like, well, unless you're pissing off Schnucks, they're not going to stop selling you food, right? So maybe we try to be friends.
Got it. Okay. Real quickly, we only have a couple minutes left, and I appreciate the extra time with Dave Hebert. AI changing the labor market for sure. Well, with the out-migration of immigrants, is it going to just be some nice gaps filled? It's just people are going to go from sitting in cubicles to doing some landscaping?
Yeah, so look, there's definitely going to be a revolution in the labor force when it comes to AI. The challenge that I see with AI is kind of like the same challenge I see with the computer, right? You look at sort of today's college kids and younger, right? They haven't really learned how to think and form an argument just yet, which means they haven't really learned how to assess arguments just yet. And they're relying on, ChatGPT and other AIs to basically do that for them. Now, look, I use ChatGPT and AI every single day. It has massively transformed how I do my job. The difference between me and like a 20-year-old kid, though, is that I spent a long time learning how to assess arguments. So when I see something come out of AI that doesn't make any sense, I know it doesn't make sense, right? I've seen those arguments before, and I can correct it, okay? Younger people can't do that. And so my worry is that younger people are going to be too reliant on AI during their formative years, and they're going to miss out on that education. And that's going to be very detrimental for the overall economy. But AI itself is a tool. It can be used for great gains, and it can be massively destructive. And we're going to have to wait and see what the long-term benefits and costs of AI are going to be.
And I know you'll be following that and its impact on the economy as well. And boy, I really enjoyed the conversation. Look forward to many more. Enjoy that those smoked ribs or pork butt or whatever you're doing, Dave. And of course, a little Four Roses along with it. Thanks so much, my friend.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, there he is. When we come back, soccer is huge. It's booming. And of course, it's big, big, big in St. Louis area. I'm going to talk with someone who is with a great club that out in the St. Charles area that's really making kids' lives, soccer lives, blossom. That's Sean Hart. Back in 5.
Spare me your philosophical metaphors, Doctor.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
For 3 generations, one family has ruled the road in quality asphalt paving. Ruby's King of the Road Hot Mix Asphalt Paving. Family owned and operated. We're your leading authority for driveways, lanes, and parking areas. No project is too small or too large. We cater to both residential and commercial needs with unbeatable quality at just $38 per square yard plus labor. Call 636-295-9949. 636-295-9949. Ruby's King of the Road Hot Mix Asphalt Paving. You save when we pave. Simply Health with Dr. Brian Deloney.
Are you stuck on the blood sugar roller coaster? Afternoon crashes, cravings, stubborn belly fat? I'm Dr. Brian Deloney, and this week on Simply Health, now available without a prescription, we're exposing how blood sugar impacts your weight, energy, and hormones, even if you don't have diabetes. So don't miss it.
Simply Health, Saturdays at noon on News Talk STL. To find out more about Simply Health Integrated Medical, log on to simplyhealthintegrated.com.
Escape to Stone Ledge Distillery in historic Defiance, Missouri, where Missouri-made spirits meet unforgettable experiences. Sip handcrafted cocktails and martinis in our lounge, unwind in the private cigar room, or soak up the outdoors on our outdoor patio and live music stage. Celebrate Stolock Ozark Highlands whiskey, Inversion vodka, and the best of Missouri spirits. One drink at a time. Mention News Talk STL and get 10% off your tab. Visit stoneledgedistillery.com. Your getaway starts here.
Attention all gun enthusiasts. Don't miss the big Lincoln County Gun Show, September 5th through 7th at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Troy, Missouri. With over 450 tables of pistols, handguns, rifles, long guns, shotguns, ammo, and more. The fun starts Friday, September 5th at 4 and continues all weekend. Admission is just $10 and good for the entire weekend. Kids 12 and under get in free with discounts for veterans and first responders. The big Lincoln County Gun Show at the Troy, Missouri KC Hall the weekend of September 5th. More info at bkpromotions.us.
When it comes to spending your tax dollars and teaching your kids, governments and school districts should be an open book. But in Missouri, that's not always the case. Recently, the Show Me Institute sent out a sunshine law request to school districts across the state, asking for information on whether certain topics are being taught. Specifically, a controversial one called critical race theory was included in the list. Many districts didn't respond. Some wanted to charge large fees to process the documents. Lee's Summit outside Kansas City wanted over $35,000. A rural district, Morgan County, wanted $15,000. The Sunshine Law does allow charging a reasonable fee for sending out information, but there's nothing reasonable about $35,000 or $15,000. These districts should want to be transparent about their curriculums. Taxpayers deserve to know what their kids are being taught. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Well, once in a while, we get together with a local, passionate, let's just say someone who is a sacrificial person, and that is a person who loves encouraging youth in something that is really growing, burgeoning, and a popular pastime and really good for their health and their development. That's soccer in the St. Louis area. Sean Hart joins us now, director of the St. Charles Football Club. Thanks for being with us, Sean.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great. Hey, so I got to tell you a little story. My son spent a year in Germany, his fourth year in college out of that 5-year extravagance I'm still paying for over in Germany as he was getting his German and international business degree. And he just fell in love with soccer. He's been injured a couple times, still plays it as a 40-year-old kid, up in Arlington, D.C., got injured the other day. That's the passion of soccer. I mean, he loves it. When he comes home, there's nothing but scheduled soccer events, that he's watching on TV. So tell us about the St. Charles Soccer Club, Football Club, and what's going on in your world.
Yeah, no. So firstly, thank you for having me on the show here. Appreciate being able to talk about it and talk to you. So yeah, we started the club 5 years ago now in 2020. A lot of people don't like to refer to that year, but for me, it was a proud year for me because we started the club just after coming out of COVID. And basically, we saw a need in the St. Charles County area specifically for a club that was, not just a good club on the field, but was tied to the community of St. Charles County, was affordable, and basically had all the opportunities and stuff that a lot of the clubs in St. Louis have, but without having to travel across the river to get them.
Yeah. This is awesome. I mean, there's how many teams and how many players are involved? This thing is huge.
Yeah, so we've gotten pretty big. We're over 500 players now and over 40 teams. Our goal was never to be humongous. I think you get to a certain point where you start to lose the culture and what you stand for if you get too big, especially too soon. So we try to be very strategic and grow organically. But yeah, I mean, we sit here today with over 500 players. We look at the kind of map that we have where everyone's located, and it's quite incredible. Really from city of St. Charles all the way up to like Troy, Moscow Mills. We really cover a huge amount of the county of St. Charles and surrounding counties. So we're having a really big impact, which is great to see.
Well, this is really cool. So, but you also, I mean, anytime parents who are involved with kids' sports know it's often no small economic feat to support that, right? I mean, forget about, the getting there and the eating at the increasingly high-priced, restaurants back and forth and all, but, equipment and so forth. You guys support families too, so that you try to make sure that every kid can get a chance.
Correct. No, it's a huge commitment. And that's one thing I noticed when I came to the US was how much more expensive soccer was compared to in Europe, where there's a lot more opportunities without the high fees associated to it. So obviously we've tried to do our best within that area. And we do have a scholarship program that each year we will really dip into that to make sure any players that come out to St. Charles FC and can't afford to play, we'll make sure they're playing one way or the other. And we have that program in place. And, every year for the last 5 years, we have supported well over 25 families per year with scholarships, so that kids have been able to play soccer regardless of, the financial aspect to it. And that's something I'm really proud of, because it is a fantastic game, and it should be open for everyone, regardless of, financials of any family that wants their son or daughter to play.
Well, no doubt an ambitious program like this takes support. And if folks want to support you, because I know you're going to be moving to the $40 million soccer complex in St. Charles, you have a MLS grassroots program as well. But where do people learn more about that and about supporting the group?
So, obviously we have our website, which is stc2020fc.com. We are currently looking for sponsors, for whether that's on jerseys, on our website. We have some other cool ideas that we're working on as well that sponsors can get involved in. We've never actually had a proper title sponsor within the 5 years that we've existed, and that's something we'd love to have. Ultimately, any title sponsor that we become involved with would have to really align with how we do things and how we view things. So we've kind of been very strategic on that, and good things come to those who wait, right? So we have been waiting, and hopefully something will fall our way eventually. But the main place to go would like I said, would be our website, and on there you can see all our programming, how you can get involved, and everything else that we do.
Sounds great, Sean. You have a new grassroots program with the Major League Soccer as well, and that soccer complex. Where's that going to? When are you moving in there?
So first year program, MLS Go, and that is going to be a grassroots program for 4 to 8 year olds, and that's going to be $105 for 8 weeks of soccer training, overseen by qualified coaches, and at the new state-of-the-art complex, which are already kind of moved into. So it's currently in phase 1, and phase 1 is soon to be complete. So we're in there now, and we're going to be on the first turf field next week for our opening MLS Go program. So we're super excited for that, and that is located in the city of St. Charles.
Well, I would suggest that folks that are interested, and we have a lot of passionate supporters of anything that's good and right, and especially good for kids. So you might be getting some contacts. Look, I just searched at St. Charles Football Club, and it popped up, stc2020fc.com. But if you just search St. Charles Football Club, it pops up. And Sean Hart, appreciate you being with us. Now, I noticed your middle name is McGuigan. Is that right? McGuigan? Is that right?
Correct, yes.
So does that mean, are you from Scotland? You Scottish?
So, I have a Scottish dad, and he had an Irish dad. So, got lots of Scottish, Irish, and English in me. So, I cover all bases, really.
Are you a single malt guy?
Yes, not at 7:45 a.m. But
no. We know that. Although it is Labor Day weekend. So, what's your favorite pour? I mean, everyone needs to know, what is Sean Hart's favorite pour? And you will probably, if you come up with there will be a match between your favorite pour and some potential sponsor out there. I guarantee you. And if they just get in touch with me at the station, I'll put them in touch with you. What's your favorite pour?
I tell you, I'm a big fan of honey whiskey. That goes down a bit too quick. And I'll be honest, there's several brands that I do like. That's always been the go-to. And my dad is flying over to the US in 1 month, actually, for my birthday. So he's already requested that I have plenty of stocked up.
All right. Well,
beverages for him and for us.
That'll make for a great soccer match for sure. I'm sort of a Lafroig or Lagavulin guy. I like, when I'm in a feisty mood, I like that. Otherwise, maybe a little bit of some Glenmorangie or something. Hey, thanks for being with us, Sean Hart. Appreciate you and all the great people at the St. Charles Football Club are doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time, and appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Now we talk with well, I got to tell you, I'm wondering if there's a more well-rounded person in the world than Virginia Kruta. I don't know. She's an author. She's a mom. She's a veteran. Is there anything you don't do or know about Virginia Kruta? Thanks for coming on this Labor Day weekend.
I can't recommend a good pour because I don't drink.
Well, come
So
on
there you
over
go.
for some ribs later on, and I'll
it's
introduce you.
so, and I've heard that this is I'm kind of the oddball here because I too you can't hear it in my voice, but I have very, very deep Scottish and Irish roots.
Oh, do
And-
you? Oh,
And I'm also very much involved in the writing world. And to write and edit and not drink is something of a sacrilege, apparently. Well, you know the phrase, you're supposed to write drunk, edit sober. Yeah, I don't.
yeah,
do that,
yeah,
so.
yeah. Hey, well, I
But
wanted
it
to
also
touch
means
base.
that I have to edit less.
Hey, I wanted to touch base with you on your thoughts about what Alex Berenson, the the former New York Times guy, and he's done a lot of investigative reporting. And I want to talk with you a little bit about this Minneapolis just terrible thing, because I know you have kids, and
Yeah.
I have
Yes.
young grandkids now and had kids. He really wanted to pin the tail, at least partially, in this incident, because I think we do need to look at these incidents, not to politicize them, but to try to learn from what could we have done, learned, acted on in the past. What are some root causes? I don't think these things ever come down to one root cause. They come down to
No.
probably several inputs. Here's what Alex Berenson told a Fox News host the other day. Listen.
Doctor, which clip is that?
Oh, sorry, 3B. Well, what he said was he's written a lot about the constant of toxicology reports in these shooting events in the schools. And yes, they happen to be transgender in most, if not all of them, that he was referring to. But aside from that, the influence of cannabis. Now, we don't know whether this guy is going to have cannabis in his toxicology report, but
Right.
he worked at a dispensary, right? And many of the others, the Cruz guy down in Parkland, he admitted that he was having dark thoughts and he was on cannabis. We know that cannabis is connected with an increasing spate of psychotic outbreaks. I see that in the emergency room, talking to my emergency room doctors. What do you think about that connection, if any?
Well, I do think that it's interesting. We definitely have an uptick in medicated or self-medicated people, just in general. And if you look at, and people will talk, well, in the 70s, there were a lot more people using marijuana. Well, it was a lot less potent and a lot less pure when you were, just getting a dime bag on the street and rolling your own. It was not the kind of purity that you can get now, right? So, and also the culture was so different. There was not guys that were, smoking weed together were, like the Beatles. They were writing music, and they were writing weird tunes and whatever else when they were under the influence, or they were doing nothing.
Yeah.
That's Woodstock. They were just laying around in the grass listening to music. The average person who got high was doing that and nothing else. So they kind of became burnouts, but they didn't go shoot people. So, but I also think that there are a couple things in play here. There is a culture that is telling you that your feelings can't be wrong, but there is absolute morality that will tell you, yes, some of those feelings are wrong. And if you have that conflict internal, that's going to make you think one way. Then you also have the, it's been decades now that especially young white males have been told that they are guilty of pretty much every cultural sin there is. They're the oppressors in every situation, right? So you take young white males and tell them there is nothing special about you. You are the bad guy in every scenario. Well, it's no wonder some of them want to be women, because it takes some of that off, right? Or they have these new identities that, okay, well, now here's how I can be a victim too, because it's a commodity. There's value in being a victim. And if you look at the manifesto of this latest kid, I'm tired of being trans. Really?
Yeah.
Like this it almost sounds like he felt like he didn't have another option. Like, this is the only way I can be special. This is the only thing that I can do that makes me different. And when he found out that wasn't the case, it breaks them. They don't have it, there's no other outlet, because there's no one telling them. Well, I mean, there are people on the right saying this, that no, not all young white men are bad, and it's not bad to be masculine, and it's not bad to be this. But you've already been brought up in that culture. You don't necessarily see that as an escape. You just think that, well, they're crazy too, and I'm still trapped in this mess.
So
do you think? I think that and RFK was talking about this a couple days ago. He said one of the things that they are looking into is the impact of certain medications or like the reoccurrence of certain medications in these cases, particularly SSRIs. They're looking at that too.
Well, look,
so I mean, obviously marijuana is something to look at. It's again one of a multitude of factors.
Well, you highlighted, I think, the core problem, whether you're going to medicate on the virtue of a prescription or, go to the dispensary, or your parents go to the dispensary or whatever. You're medicating because something's awry in your life, right? Now, there's nothing wrong. I mean, look, there are people whose life, nothing is awry. And instead of, having a pour, they eat a gummy and they're with their friends, and then everyone goes to bed and everyone's happy and they get up and they live their lives. That's not what this is about. It's about people who, and I keep thinking about how in our practice, we're always harping on lifestyle. I don't feel well. People will come in with these complaints of just generally things are blah, not good, whatever. I need my hormones checked, whatever. Sometimes it's that, but very often it's a matter of better nutrition, better diet. I think from a young person's standpoint, going to work and getting a job and getting up in the morning and doing something fulfilling. It just seems like culturally we've set the stage, we've prepared the seed bed for a lot of weeds to grow in kids' lives. And we're instead of cultivating and getting out the weeds, planting some healthy plants and nourishing them, we're trying to throw weed killer on it and without planting anything more healthy.
We've taught kids that there's a pill for everything. There's if you're too sad too often, then there's a pill for that. And if you get anxious, that's the one that gets me. I realize that there are anxiety disorders that require medication.
Right.
But kids are being taught that it's not okay to have your heart race right before a test.
Right.
Or to have your palms get sweaty right before a theater performance. They're being taught that needs to be medicated. I'm like, no, you have to learn to cope with it as a human being on your own, because if you don't, you will have no choice but medication.
Yeah. I couldn't say it better. I think you're so very right. I just really, my heart breaks for these people. And how about the Christians? And we only have a minute left. What about the Christians and other people of faith who basically are denigrated and dismissed because they're praying? Oh, you think prayer is going to fix it? We have to take people's guns away, say Jen Psaki and the mayor of Minneapolis. Last word, a minute.
Well, I think Caroline Levitt is correct on this. It absolutely diminishes. It says that or dismisses the millions of Americans who believe in the power of prayer. And I think that J.D. Vance and a couple others said this as well. When Christians pray after a tragedy or in the midst of tragedy, it's not because we think that prayer alone will solve every earthly problem. It's because we believe that prayer is powerful and God is listening.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean we don't have to do something about the tragedy. But again, I think we'd all disagree on what to do, because we realize that prayer is powerful and God is listening. We also realize that taking away guns does not remove evil from the hearts of men.
Yep.
As we say so often, Cain killed Abel with a rock.
Yeah. You're right.
It is a heart problem. It is not a gun problem.
Beautiful analysis, and you're so spot on. It's simple, but it's not easy, right? Virginia, thanks for being with us. Hope you enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Thank you so very much. We look forward to talking next week.
Sounds good.
Nick Schroer coming up. Governor calls a special session. What's that all about? Stay tuned.
JC's Wayback Machine.
This week, we salute the working men and women of this country with lots of tunes about work. They call him the hardest working man in show business, Jay Leno. Back in 1984, he was in our studios on a Saturday morning before anybody knew who he was. You'll hear that. Plus, great tunes from the 90s, 80s, and 70s. Not the ones you hear on St. Louis radio all the time. And it's all brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9 on News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor-fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Larry Connors here. Is your home ready for the chilly months ahead? Renewal by Andersen has a buy one, get one 50% off window event. And if you qualify, 18 months, no payments, zero interest. Not sure if it's the right time? Renewal makes it easy. No obligation window inspection. Just find out what new windows might cost when you're ready. No pressure, no hassle. And remember, no one but Renewal by Andersen can offer Fibrex, the proprietary window frame material, 200% stronger than vinyl. Means durability, efficiency, beauty that lasts every season. What are you waiting for? Call 877-WINDOWS or visit RBASTL.com and get your consultation. Renewal by Andersen. Superior products. Exceptional service.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they're very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They were in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
KLDY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The White House is drawing attention to gas pump prices this holiday travel weekend. Here's White House correspondent Greg Clugston.
With many Americans traveling over Labor Day weekend, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt points to a bright spot in the economy. The national average price for gas is about $3.15 per gallon, the lowest Labor Day price at the pump since 2020.
These savings at the pump are giving everyday American families more room in their budgets at the end of each month.
According to Gas Buddy, gas this Labor Day weekend is about 15 cents a gallon lower than last year. Greg Clugston, the White House.
When it comes to producing energy, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin says the U.S. is more environmentally sensitive than countries like China and others.
We are much more concerned about the environment here in the United States, and we tap into our own energy supply much more environmentally friendly than so many other countries around the world.
The EPA Administrator interviewed this week by the Salem Radio Network. Author and political commentator Gordon Chang disagrees with President Trump when it comes to supporting more Chinese students at American universities. He knows that Chinese students are under intense pressure from their own government to commit espionage when studying abroad.
We also know that where there are Chinese students, the Chinese Ministry of State Security and Chinese consular officials monitor, coerce, and surveil Chinese students.
AAA spokeswoman Aisha Diaz says there aren't as many people hitting the roads this Labor Day weekend compared to the other big holidays of the year, but she did tell us about some of the favored destinations.
Our AAA booking data shows that people are going to Seattle because of Alaska cruises, Orlando for the theme parks and for the cruises that leave out of Central Florida, and New York City, Chicago, Atlanta, Boston, those classic American cities, as well as Las Vegas and Denver.
That's Aisha Diaz, and this is townhall.com.
Summer is all about making great memories. Boy, I love getting out on the boat. I admit that one of my little joys in life is to get on a boat and ride around on Tampa Bay. But if you're living with pain, those future memories can be stolen from you. Here's a thought. Try Relief Factor. Let's see if we can get you out of pain. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free daily supplement designed to help your body fight pain. It's a doctor-developed formula made of natural ingredients. The best part of all, Relief Factor never masks the pain. It helps reduce or even eliminate it for good. Whether it's doing what I do, whether it's kayaking on a lake, running around with the little ones, or just chilling in the hammock with a good book, Relief Factor can help you feel better, move better, and do more of the things you love all summer long. So if you're ready to reclaim your summer and make some amazing memories, head over to ReliefFactor.com or give them a call at 800-4-RELIEF. 800-4-RELIEF. Do it now and get their 3-week quick start for just $19.95. The number again, 1-800-4-RELIEF. 800-4-RELIEF. Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor.
A book.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs, attorney at law, has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs, attorney at law. Call 636-949-0010, extension 3 today, or visit colecombs-law.com.
This hour, the Randy Tobler Show, brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
It's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and you are listening to Randy Tobler right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Why? Because you're awesome.
After a lot of thought, prayer, and conversation, I want to assure you that this is not a decision I've made lightly. I hope the legislature will work together to pass this map and critically needed IP reform to stay true to our Missouri First values. This is about clarity for voters and ownership of our future. And with the Missouri First map, we can deliver. Thank you, and God bless.
Well, that is our governor, Mike Keogh, announcing yesterday afternoon that, in fact, there will be a special session. Welcome back into the Tobler Show here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1. And are we ever privileged and blessed to have Senator Nick Schroer, who's been at the, well, let's just say the point of the sphere, and he will continue to be that moving forward as this special session attempts to get over a couple of super big issues for us. Of course, he presides on Sunday afternoons / evenings on his radio show here on News Talk STL as well. And Senator Schroer, Nick joins us now. Wow, big news yesterday, Nick. You got to be thrilled about that, brother.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think, most of the Missourians that I'm talking to are ecstatic that we finally have a governor that has the intestinal fortitude to bring us back in and finish the job.
And I know you guys, the Freedom Caucus, which you're leader in, wrote a letter to the governor back in July. And really, I think that, along with some encouragement from the president, and gosh, I think probably a lot of grassroots encouragement, finally got us over the end line, at least to get that session going. What exactly is being considered? Tell us more about the America First map, what that means. Did you have some, say in forming that, or is that a consensus group? How did it get there? And about the IP reform too. What are the facts of this special session?
Well, just to be clear, the Missouri Freedom Caucus, we've been working on this thing since 2022. I initially offered a map, which was very similar. It's not the same, but it's very similar to the map that Governor Kehoe came out yesterday and showed that this is a group effort. And that's what we're doing with the Missouri Freedom Caucus. We know there's no way in politics, one person, two people are going to steamroll the entire legislature. So talking about these ideas for years is culminating in some good results finally, and a lot has changed. We've got Governor Kehoe, who has brought a lot of these actors together, including members of Congress. I know he was on the phone with Congress members yesterday, just making sure that all of these different pieces are going to keep the current Congress members in their districts. And ultimately what we're doing is undoing what happened in 2022, when I say the leadership at the time was kowtowing to the Democrats for political pressure. The Democrats at the time were saying, we're going to filibuster unless you preserve a seat for us on the Kansas City side. I was part of a lot of discussions back in 2022 as a House member, and I said that as a supermajority, we're bending the knee to the Democrats. We got to play nice, because if they ever take control again, we don't want them to steamroll us. And we've also got massive leadership change in the White House. Back in 2022, we had Joe Biden in office. Now we've got Donald Trump saying, guys, let's be the Republicans that Missourians elected. Let's be the supermajority Republicans elected and keep these communities compact, contiguous, and keep communities together. And for example, in Congressman Ander's district, which was previously Blaine Luetkemeier's, they split one of the biggest, fastest growing counties down the middle. St. Charles County was split in two. Warren County was split in two. There were a number of counties that were split into communities split, right down the middle, and we're putting them back together.
Boone County.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you've got your show out there. You know exactly how that impacted those communities. So what we're trying to do is keep all of those communities back together as best as we can. And sure enough, that results in a map that is going to deliver a 7-1, 7 possibly conservatives. It's still going to be competitive, sending them down to D.C.
That's remarkable. Well, let's talk about that just a little bit more. I know that, you hear about this when people talk in general about just the notion of redistricting at the national level. When you hear, analysts and talking heads, there's always concern that you may erode some of the previous dominance that an incumbent has in that community. And so there's some potential, I guess, theoretical threat. Do you think that in this environment where we're at politically in Missouri and nationally, that's a serious threat to sitting Congress people now?
I don't think so. And I think you could just look at the race to replace Blaine Luetkemeyer, for example. It was a new district that was drawn. We had new people, Bob Onder, Kurt Schaefer, and a couple others that jumped in. Yeah, some of these names were present in some of the communities, but the way you're able to touch all of these communities with social media and messaging, and even jumping in the car, like I know my good friend Congressman Onder did from time to time, he walked away with that thing. And I think a lot of these people, like Congressman Burleson, our good friend down in Springfield, Missouri, did the same thing. It's not really something that I believe is the case, like we saw 20, 30 years ago, when you couldn't get on a Zoom call, or you couldn't do a Facebook stream to do a town hall. So I'm not necessarily concerned about that. What I was concerned about is the splitting of communities, where some of the people that I would encounter in my own Senate district had, on one side of their subdivision, they had Congressman Onder. On the other side, they had Congressman Wagner. And it was always a topic of just like, well, it could be done better than this. We're fine with our representation, but it could be done a little bit better, so we know exactly who to go to if we have passport issues, if we have taxing issues, so on and so forth.
We're talking with Senator Nick Schroer. Of course, Nick presides his radio program here on News Talk STL on Sundays, and really a leader at this move for a long time. And it takes a while for big things to happen sometimes. So, good things happen to people that wait, right, Nick? What's the likelihood of pushback from the Democrats? Was that ever an easy question to answer? And do you see PQ in your future in this special session when it comes to this issue?
Yeah, well, seeing that we've been on this issue for a long time now, I've had many conversations with Democrats, and we knew nothing would come easy. We're thankful for President Trump. We're thankful for Governor Kehoe prioritizing this, but it does come at a cost, because the Democrats are saying, just as they did when they went to Chicago a couple months ago, when the Democrats in Texas tucked tail and ran to the most gerrymandered, jerry-rigged state in the nation, the Democrats from Missouri went with it. A lot of people don't know this. There are videos out there where the leaders of the Democrat Party, the leaders of the Democrat Black Caucus, are saying, come hell or high water, we're not going to give in. We're going to fight. They're going to have to use the nuclear option and PQ us. Well, a lot of people don't understand that kicking and screaming like a child and not coming to the table with any ideas to debate and actually have a conversation, that's the nuclear option. The use of the PQ is just utilizing the rules to deal with that nuclear option. So I firmly believe there's going to be a lot of pushback. We're seeing on social media from a lot of different senators, Senator Doug Beck from St. Louis County, Senator Nierenberg, and many of the different senators saying, yeah, we're going to fight. We're not going to let this thing pass. We're going to stand in the way. But we all know that in the state of Missouri, you have an unfettered access to the filibuster. You also have the right to the PQ. And I think the governor and the leadership team, like Senator O'Laughlin, Senator Luetkemeyer, Representative Patterson, and Riley, they wouldn't have pulled the trigger on this thing. And I think this is why it took so long. I actually know this is why it took so long, because we had to see, okay, if it does come to that ultimate issue where the nuclear option is occurring on the floor, where the Democrats won't move, are you comfortable with utilizing the PQ to do these two things, saving the congressional maps and saving our Constitution? And I think the answer is yes. The Republicans are more together than they have ever been in my time in the legislature.
Well, I've criticized Republicans at the national level and, from time to time at the state level for not, bringing their knives to the knife fight, or their guns to the knife fight, right? I think it's Republicans are learning when it came to the election last year. We may not like the rules of mail-in voting and early voting, but by golly, we better play by those rules and beat them at their own game. The Democrats took no hostages at all and had no reservations about pushing one of the most horrid bills that I know an awful lot about, Obamacare. When they had the leadership, man, it was Nancy Pelosi style leadership, got a lot of things done, and look where we ended up. And so I think most even more moderate conservatives have to objectively look at this new style, as I call it, of Republican governance. And it's like, hey, until the other side decides to be civil and more whatever diplomatic and collegial, well, sorry, we're not going to do that, because we keep losing when we do that. It's good to see, Nick. It's really good to see.
That's exactly right. And that's, one of the things at the Missouri Freedom Caucus, when I took the reins right after the last special session, I wasn't, I didn't ask to become the leader. A lot of drama unfolded with the last special session. And, I was chosen to take us in a different direction. And that's exactly what we were doing. We were the first organization, the first group of misfits, I guess you could say, that called on, in a respectful manner, called on the governors to bring us back in and deal with these two topics that no other Republican leader has been able to get done in my time. And I came in 2016. I took the oath in 2017. Both of these issues were a hot topic back then. But yeah, we have to utilize the rules that the Democrats are playing by. We have to utilize the same playbook, or we're going to lose every single time. You know, putting 4 men on the field instead of 9, they have an advantage. And yeah, I'm just certainly glad that we've got some leadership in the White House and governor's office that absolutely get that.
One of our listeners is saying we need to have a hat that says Mara, Make America Red Again. So I like that. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the really nice benefits of this 7-1 redistricting before we head over to IP reform, could it be? Well, it might be a benefit in some people's minds because Emmanuel Cleaver may go away, but it might be a negative, Nick, because what are we going to do without the entertainment value of statements like musty moo moo moo? What are we going to do if that goes away? What happens?
Well, and I don't know, with Cori Bush gone on the one side and Wesley Bell really hasn't been that entertaining. I know his town halls have been when the Democrats are coming out trying to skewer him, but the musty moo moo, the A men and A women, man, this guy, we will miss him if he goes away, not for his policies or his wit, but for his, those things.
Okay. Tell us about IP. Tell us about IP reform as the second big issue of this special session. Are there some formative ideas there, or is this more of a brainstorming in real time, or are there some pretty solid ideas on the table that are limited and therefore can get across the finish line?
Yeah, I think most of these ideas have been kicked around for a couple of years now. You always hear the adage, there's a million ways to skin a cat, and there's a million ways to protect our Constitution and pass IP reform, similar to the 7-1 map. There's about a million ways you could draw up a formidable 7-1 map. But with IP reform, initiative petition process, for those that aren't familiar, that's the process by which the Democrats and the coastal elites have been using these millionaires from out of the state of Missouri to change our Constitution with these liberal policies that they can't pass normally in the state of Missouri. So they go outside, they try to change our Constitution, they collect signatures in 40, 50, 60 plus pages. They're only giving you a snippet of what is going to appear on the ballot. They say that's all about women's health care. They're not talking about, abortion on demand, abortion at any point in the pregnancy, like it was with Amendment 3. So essentially what we saw the governor call yesterday is requiring that instead of a 50% plus one of whoever comes out, whoever turns out, even though that might not be the majority of the registered voters, that was what was necessary to change our Constitution. It's very easy to get done. What he's looking at now is what the Democrats have been talking about: democracy, the will of the people, the voice of the people. And we saw many of these things, whether it was the game bingo that's in our Constitution, marijuana, Amendment 3, Clean Missouri, all of these things that were only passed in St. Louis and Kansas City during the current process. So what he's wanting to do is get more buy-in from all of the congressional districts. You're going to have to get a majority in all of these congressional districts. So it's that two-step process, but you can't get to the majority of the congressional districts, or you can't get a majority on the ballot if you're not getting a majority in those anyway. So all we really need to focus on is checking the boxes. Did this win in every single congressional district in the state of Missouri? And for the most part, I think you look at a lot of these ballot initiatives that just squeaked by, like Amendment 3, they're only passing where the Democrats have a stronghold. So there's some other things in there too on ensuring that people have access to all of the language that's going to go into the Constitution, not just what's going to appear on the ballot. A comment period where people can have more buy-in and more say to ask questions before this thing appears on the ballot. So the only other part, we passed a statutory version, but this would go into our Constitution, and that's the prohibition on the foreign funding of ballot initiatives. We already have a prohibition on funding candidates, but we never got that into the Constitution to stop the foreign funding of ballot initiatives.
Makes so much sense. Can't imagine it's taken this long to get here, but hopefully we will see both of these big and in some ways related issues when it talks of redistricting and then passing in all districts. What do you, in the last couple of minutes we have, how do you counter the arguments from within Republican? I know Republican people. I know people in Jefferson City who say, wait a minute, it's going to be hard for us to undo some of these constitutional amendments that need to be done if we tighten the rules, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They're not unhappy about the ability for we the people to initiate these things, even though it takes $10 to $15 million to do that. And I am not that kind of we the people. I don't have that money to start an initiative petition.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I don't think any Republican, being a fiscal conservative, is willing to, throw the money out there. But it's something, it's a gamble that we have to make. And we're going to have Amendment 3, the fix to the life issue, back on the ballot. And I think that's going to be based upon the former rules, the easy system. So hopefully we're able to fix it like we did with Clean Missouri and other initiatives where we were lied to and the people wised up. They figured out exactly what that did. But that's something that we're going to have to take into account and hopefully work through in the coming days and weeks. The House is going to go in next week. The Senate's going to go in thereafter during veto session. But I'm confident that, if we can stop some of these easy ballot initiatives funded by people, even the guy, the millionaire in Switzerland who put dang near $4 million into lying to us on Amendment 3, preserving our Constitution, that's going to be more of interest to the people in Missouri.
Well, I am full-throated behind you, brother. And Senator Nick Schroer, leader in the Freedom Caucus, and the great movement that now has culminated in the governor announcing a special session. I know you'll be talking about it tomorrow night on Stand and Fight.
Will do.
6 to 8, right?
You better believe it. A lot of that. We're going to talk about the madness of gun control, the Democrats going crazy over redistrict, IP reform, and the special session as a whole.
All right. Well, I look forward to listening as I'll be enjoying some leftover ribs and a nice pour and listening to Nick Schroer on Stand and Fight. What is your favorite pour, Nick? I got to ask you.
Man, it really depends. There's a new Macallan 12-year-old Scotch that I'm into. You can never go wrong. You can never go wrong with Buffalo Trace. So it just really depends on the weather. With the fall weather coming in, you put a good Scotch or an Irish whiskey with around a bonfire, and that's going to set the tone.
Sounds great. Hey, Nick, thanks very much for being with me. Take care.
Absolutely. God bless you, Doc.
Same to you. All right, boy, it's really, really a wonderful day unfolding. At least the hope that we'll come up with some redistricting representing the true redness of our state and our constituencies, and as well as some IP reform. When we come back, the FBI will be increasing its presence in St. Louis. And in general, that talk of the town and across the nation is, should other agencies help local and metropolitan police departments? Well, let's talk with former St. Louis County Police Chief Tim Fitch when we come back here on the Tobler Show. Stay tuned.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
Download the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
Love the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
It is awesome.
And listen anytime.
Love the NewsTalk STL app.
Anywhere.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. And don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open Napoli Kirkwood.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
Yes, it's been really hot and humid, but fall and winter right around the corner. Tim Jones here to tell you, time to get a hold of Chad Hansen and the gang at Hansen's Tree Service for your home or your business. Grinding, land clearing, green waste recycling, tree consulting, removal, or pruning. The organic mulch from Hansen's a wonderful addition to beautify and spruce up all your landscape beds. They offer substantial volume discounts for bulk orders and emergency tree removal. Just go to hansenstree.com. That's hansenstree.com.
Hi, I'm Jen Wallner.
And I'm Rodney Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Rodney, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission rate?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
When's the best time to sell your home?
Right now. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Producer Joey V here. I hope you have a safe and wonderful Labor Day weekend. Tim, Chris, and I will be back together in studio live with you on Tuesday.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
It's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and you are listening to Randy Tobler right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Why? Because you're awesome.
And you're awesome too, Mike Ferguson. Thank you for allowing Jerome to work with us on set and be part of the Tobler Show and Tobler Nation. Jerome, I know it's a labor of love, brother, but we appreciate it. You tell Mike how much we enjoy listening to him too every Monday through Friday here on News Talk STL.
Will do, absolutely. And I know he's a big fan of the Randy Tobler Show as well, so the love is mutual.
Well, now we're always a fan, and we worship. I say this, and I don't mean this in a trite way. I always tell my law enforcement friends and colleagues, and when we talk with them on air, I literally worship at the altar of law enforcement, our military folks, and those are the two categories that I really just honor so much, because in the law enforcement category, they've been so denigrated and so just derided over the last several years. So we talk with Tim Fitch now, the former St. Louis County Police Chief. How you doing, Tim? Thank you for being with us.
I'm doing great. Thanks, Randy, for having me on.
Well, we saw recently Senator Schmidt has secured some really what is a historic FBI investment to combat violence in St. Louis. I know that wasn't your jurisdiction directly, but I think the general topic is, you know, in the light of the success that we've seen just in a couple of short weeks with the presence of National Guardsmen in D.C., guardsmen and women, and just in general, this theme of, wow, when there is law enforcement presence, however you define that, in a greater magnitude, wow, what a surprise. You see criminality go down. Wow, what a novel thought. What do you think of this in general, and in particular in the St. Louis area? Because Lord knows we need it. What, third in the country in murders? What say you?
Well, I would say it's a welcome addition to the law enforcement community. And actually, it does include my jurisdiction. I'm still a police officer in one of our municipalities. I still do it part-time. Okay. And I will tell you that the FBI, the additional personnel coming to the FBI in St. Louis will help the entire region, not just the city of St. Louis. Now, that's where the vast majority of the violent crime is concentrated, in the city of St. Louis. So I'm sure that that's where those resources will be mostly dedicated to. But I will tell you that in the St. Louis area, crime has no jurisdictional boundaries. It moves around pretty freely. So it's a welcome addition, and I thank the senator and the president for getting those resources here in the St. Louis area.
Now, I know in my field of medicine, you know, I have a specialty, and I now am doing sort of a general practice with that little specialty nuance, but there's always some boundaries that are respected. So if I if Tim Fitch comes into my office and I hear a little heart murmur, I'm not going to be a cardiologist, right? Because I don't want to step on my cardiologist friend's toes. So there are those sort of professional boundaries that, for all the right reasons, are respected. How are those boundaries how are they being, and those lanes being managed in? I think back to Ferguson when the highway patrol came, there were some infusion of different than the local resources. How are those managed just day to day, minute to minute, tactically to avoid conflicts of turf?
Well, the federal agents, for example, the FBI, they enforce federal law. Local and state agencies enforce state law and then local ordinances. So typically the feds stay in their lane with federal law. However, if you remember our good friend Kim Gardner, who was the circuit attorney in the city of St. Louis, she wasn't prosecuting many crimes, especially violent crimes. And so the city police officers in St. Louis had to take a lot of their gun cases to the feds. They had to take it to the ATF, the U.S. Attorney's Office, to get them prosecuted. That's not unusual to do that. So I would expect you'll see more of that. So it's okay for local and state officers to take those cases to the feds when they would be the proper jurisdiction to prosecute them. We know they have more resources than the state level. They have more prison space than the state level. So that's a good thing.
No, you mentioned prosecutors and sort of the after the hard work that, police officers, on the streets, on the beat carry out. And that is, arresting the bad guy, the perp. I can tell you in Boone County, Columbia, where I do my morning show Monday through Friday, we talk an awful lot about lower levels of criminality being sort of winked at. And it seems to happen in bluer jurisdictions, my impression, more than in, more red jurisdictions. But it seems to a lot of us common blokes out here, and I hear it all the time, Tim, from texting, phone calls, friends, neighbors, colleagues, that we get the sense that police are frustrated. I hear this from police officers, frustrated because there's like a revolving door. They keep arresting the same people. And then if you can get away with a lower level crime and, whether it's, trespassing, public, whatever, I know Jill Schluty in Columbia is really putting a crackdown on these gatherings of people at, after curfew, after, the bars close and stuff. But if you're a would-be criminal and you get away with some lower levels of thing and the prosecutors and the judges don't do their job and get these people, punished and made accountable, well, then they get away with higher level, and pretty soon it escalates. Next thing you know, people are getting raped and murdered. Is there truth to that general theory on the part of the general public? And what can be done about that if it is a problem? I know A.G. Bailey is big on that too.
Yeah, you're talking about the broken windows theory, if you've ever heard of that.
Yes.
So basically that was initiated by Bill Bratton in New York City back when he said, if we take care of the little problems, the big problems, we can avoid those and hopefully stop them upstream before they become major crimes. And that went away. And then we saw what happened with crime in New York and other big blue cities around the country. We saw that in the city of St. Louis. We saw a little taste of this last week in St. Louis, where an off-duty Florissant Valley Community College police officer who was murdered back in 2008, so it's a cold case homicide, was cleared and someone was charged with first-degree murder. Well, the judge in the city of St. Louis let a first-degree murderer out on the street after he paid $5,000 to get out of jail.
Oh my God.
That's unheard of. That's unheard of, a $5,000 walk out of jail first-degree murder case. So we still see a little bit of that, but that's in the city of St. Louis with a liberal judge. And basically the attorney, Gabe Gore, the the state's attorney, the circuit attorney as they call him, Gabe Gore fought that. And the judge overruled the prosecutor's office and said, we're going to let him out anyway on $5,000. Now we're fortunate in St. Louis County. We have a new prosecutor, Melissa Price Smith, who's taken a no nonsense approach. If you get caught with a gun the first time, you're going to jail. That's unheard of in St. Louis County in the last couple decades. So that's a good thing.
Okay. Well, and again, we're talking with Tim Fitch, who's currently, I didn't know that you're still working as an officer, in a municipality, but former county police chief. I'm interested in cultural issues and how they relate to law and order and public safety, because after all, It's usually never these big issues of our time are usually not like one factor. You can put it all on one deal. But it seems to me as though we've had a general, and this is from a boomer. Okay, I'm sorry, I got to admit it, but I was taught early on, you say yes sir, no sir. If a police officer pulls you over, you say yes sir, no ma'am, whatever. It seems like we've had a cultural breakdown over the past few decades where a lot of hubris, a lot of lack of respect for authority. And I don't know whether it's the breakdown in the family, whether it relates to what we were just talking about, where kids get away. Well, in San Francisco, you can steal $900. No, we look the other way. No big deal. Are there some cultural undercurrents here? Do you see that in the behavior of younger people and young people who grow up to be older people? Do you see that as an officer?
Well, I wouldn't say it's cultural, it's generational. So we have seen through the generations this lack of respect for authority in general. And of course, the police are the ultimate authority you see in your neighborhood every day. So it filters down to them. But I will tell you that it's that way across the generation, and not all of them. Let's keep that in mind. Right. There are a ton of young people that are very respectful for older people and want to help the community and see their community thrive. And there's others that just don't care. They just don't give a damn. And I think a lot of that is passed down from the parent or parents in some of these cases. And you can also, I've seen great parents and their kids still go astray. So there's some of those environmental issues or biological issues that come into play as well, especially when you start talking about mental illness and things like that.
Yeah. It seems to me that when I was being raised, and I think my kids too, who went to school, grade school and middle school in the 90s and into the early 2000s, they felt as though police officers, they were often present in the schools. They saw them around the community, and they weren't perceived as a threat. It was more like a friend. It was a different construct. Now I know in the African-American community, there is a history apparently that, and that seems to live on and on, that the police is not your friend, this is a threat. It seems to be, I know Ben Carson talks about how, his mom luckily had a different talk with him. It was like, no, you have to respect authority. Ben did pretty well by himself, But are you beginning to see with the change of who's in the MAGA tent in the Trump world, where we're seeing a lot of young black males who have migrated to that side of the fence, maybe feeling that maybe there is another way to look at law enforcement? Is there some hope there that we can change that cultural narrative?
I think we have, and it's in progress. Just look at the number of African-American officers we have recruited to the county police department, for example, has grown by leaps and bounds over the last 30 years. And that doesn't just happen. It happens because of the relationships you establish in the community. It's seeing those police officers in the school and talking and saying, these are like regular people. They have kids and they have bills to pay. They have all of these things. So it really has been enjoyable to watch that transformation of how young people who used to just absolutely hate the police now want to be the police. So it's been pretty refreshing. It's gotten better.
That's really good. Well, look, this has really been a very hopeful discussion because after I think the police officers and policing in general has just been in the valley in terms of perception. And, a lot of us were just like, my God, can we ever get you guys some respect and let you do your jobs and return some law and order to our country? Sounds like things are turning around. So new sheriff in town in a big, broad way in many respects. And we thank you for outlining that, Tim. Really appreciate it very much. Thanks for your service. And please relay that on behalf of me and this entire audience for all that you guys do.
Certainly will. Thanks for having me on.
Our pleasure. Well, that was a heartening discussion. Really good to hear. Things might be turning around. And I think it's time has come that we turn this country back to make America safe again. How many different hats can we make, Jerome? We had Make America Red again, one of the listeners offered, and then we got a MASA, Make America Safe Again.
I don't know. Be careful. The LGBT, they have all those letters. But I like the MASA, Make America Safe Again. I like that one.
There you go. Hey, let's come back and wrap it up in a minute. You're welcome to join in the conversation. Give us a buzz, 314-912-1019. on the Tobler Show, News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Doctor, you have an unsurpassed talent for understatement.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Hey, Mike Ferguson here. And for nearly 40 years, Nutrition Stop has been St. Peter's trusted source for natural living. They've got a great, knowledgeable staff offering more than just products. They provide guidance on your wellness journey with exceptional service, from 100% grass-fed meats like elk and bison and local produce to quality supplements and clean household products. 4101 Mexico Road in St. Peter's, just off the interstate at Cave Springs and Highway 70.
Join Aaron Tarlow every Sunday night at 9 on News Talk STL for Shall Not Be Infringed, your voice for Second Amendment rights and firearms education. Brought to you by DG Firearms, Kevin's Guns, Osage County Guns, and Full Circle Reloading and Firearms.
I'm kicking what they're giving because I'm working for a living.
I'm an elevator technician.
I'm a construction superintendent.
I work for the police department. I'm an accountant. I work at FedEx.
I work 3 part-time jobs.
News Talk STL celebrates
Keep up the good work.
Labor Day 2025 by paying tribute to the American.
It's a working man's holiday.
Simply the best in the world. A reminder from the hardworking folks at Dry Creek Lumber, Mosquito Joe's, and Di Gregorio's Foods.
Forget the chit-chat. Get to work.
Still waking up like you fought a bear in your sleep? Yeah, let's fix that. This Labor Day, starting September 5th, save up to $725 on top brands like Tempur-Pedic, Serta, and Beautyrest, only at Snooze Mattress Company in Chesterfield Valley. Here's the real game changer, Dream Mapping. We scan your pressure points and match you to the perfect mattress. No guesswork, just real comfort, personalized for you. Plus, 0% easy financing and local no-pressure service. Get in here, because if you don't snooze, you lose.
Taste the difference that fresh local makes. Anthony's Produce supports our local farmers by bringing you the finest locally grown produce in town. From the juiciest peaches and melons to the sweetest corn and ripest tomatoes, we've got it all. Plus, discover our amazing selection of locally made jams, salsas, pickles, and fresh sourdough breads. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Saturday, 7 to 6:30, and Sundays, 8 to 5. 701 Jungerman Road in St. Peters, or visit anthonysproduce.com.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today.
800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380. Paid for by U.S. Med.
This hour, the Randy Tobler Show, brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
Haven't you heard about the guy known as the cheater? He'll take your girl and then he'll lie and he'll mistreat her.
This is Larry Connors reminding you to listen to my program Monday through Friday at 6 p.m., the Larry Connors USA Daily Report. But now, back to the outstanding Dr. Randy Tobler.
It was very interesting on that discussion that we had with Tim Fitch. Really appreciate him being with us and talking very frankly about some of the realities on the ground and the fact that things might be turning around in terms of our support. I mean the citizens of Missouri, of metropolitan St. Louis, dare I say, even probably many precincts in some of the toughest parts of St. Louis. Not that he said that, but I would speculate there's a lot of people that maybe stay muzzled, but they're very happy to see increased increased cooperation of law enforcement and prosecutors and so forth, and are disappointed when that doesn't happen. But I know that there are these concerns. They're legitimate about just how far federal encroachment into local matters becomes apparent, right? It's a big deal for many. Here's a little cut from this is a Chicago testimonial, an interview from a woman on the street asked about that. But it might as well be a St. Louis citizen. Listen.
My first reaction was that this is a good thing. I think that the governor as well as the mayor should be on board with it just so we can get a bit more of security in Chicago the way that we need.
The crime has dropped since 2024. Do you feel like the city feels safer?
No, not at all. No, especially with the police being defunded. My first reaction was that this is a good thing.
Yeah. So I think what she's referencing is, look, even though the left likes to spin the fact that since, 2020, 21, 22, take your reference, yeah, maybe crime's dropped a little bit, but it's still historically very high and unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. And so, those numbers, those stats can be painted and spun by the left in any way they want. But the reality is communities are not safe. Innocent people are getting shot. Young people who know no better are getting involved in gang warfare and pulling out a gun before they pull out their debate skills and their argumentative skills. Whatever happened to that, Jerome? Used to be when people had a disagreement, they pounded their fist and had a discussion and, yeah, your father wears a girdle. Your mother, whatever. I mean, but now in so many areas, I mean, sadly, young people, especially young black males, it seems to be just part of the culture. The first thing you do when you don't get along or, the drug deal went south, you pull out a gun. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the lack of a couple things. So one is the lack of self-emotional regulation. And then two is the access and ability for people that are youth to have somebody that teaches them or demonstrates you need to have overwhelming force to settle your differences. So when I was in, middle school, grade school age, it was, you'd call each other names. Somebody gets too mad, you push each other, you get into a fist fight. Lunch lady comes and breaks it up, and then it's settled from there usually. By the time I got into high school, it became, you disrespected me in school, I'm going to wait for you after school, and I'm going to shoot you a few blocks away because the school's not going to do anything about it, and if nobody's around, then that's that, right? So I do think that it's come down to the fact that, as society has really lessened the societal pressure on people to behave themselves in a way that is not going to lead to a severe, overwhelmingly permanent, life-destroying decision. Again, the glorification in many cultures, or at least in the media, of, hey, I'm this big shot guy. You're not going to mess with me. If you mess with me once, then I'll kill you, or whatever the case may be. I think that really is very toxic, and it's really led to a lot of this stuff. And then now we see it going into things like this, the recent tragedy that happened in Minnesota, where it's people that they don't have any sort of internal anything to ground them in a way that preserves the values of life, and therefore to them it is entertaining or funny or whatever. They glorify the destruction and devastation that it's caused.
It's interesting that the police up there, I guess, or the feds, whatever authority, has talked with the father of that shooter, but the mother lawyered up right away. And she worked at that Catholic church. I think, was it from 16 to 21 or 18 to 22? But I mean, in the last few years, I think it was 21. They threw a retirement party, and I remember that was reported in the wake of this terrible event. And you just wonder if these parents, I mean, I've heard one commentator comment that maybe it's time we start talking about holding parents responsible at some level. I mean, when the behavior of the child is absolutely outrageous, just unleashed craziness, literal crazy, that doesn't just generally happen like a light switch, Jerome. I mean, there are signs. Apparently the police had been called for some kind of a mental health issue a few years ago. And you wonder at what point, if parents are enabling, cloaking, not addressing squarely behavior that is likely to escalate in some way to this kind of a thing. should they be held responsible? It's a discussion we need to have.
So I just want to touch on that very briefly because I am an advocate for that as well. And some people say, well, we want government out of all this stuff. Why this? My core philosophy is we have enough laws, maybe even too many laws, but the enforcement of the law and the way that not just police, but us as a community enforce it is different. So child neglect, currently the definition is a parent or caretaker's failure to provide for a child's basic needs, such as food, clothing, shelter, supervision, education, necessary care in a way that would result in harm or stunt the development of the child. If you are not taking care of your kid is in the background making illegal drug deals and running around at night, causing fights with people, is by this definition, this is a legal definition, that is child neglect. Why are we not at least saying, look, your kid was left to their own devices so long, you put a tablet in front of them, and then now they're doing stuff online they shouldn't be doing. They're carjacking people, they're beating people up, they're causing crimes. We're going to charge you with child neglect. Do you not think that more people would then say, oh, I should check in on my kid more often?
Yeah, right. And by the same token, my heart goes out to parents who have, quote, done all the right things, been there for their kids. We know what that means. Big air finger quotes, been there. They're present. They're active in their kids' lives. This 764, you didn't hear about us talking in the first block right at the top of the show. You should go back and listen to the podcast. It'll be up later. But there are demonic, and I mean that literally, I truly believe there are demonic influences at work in our kids' lives. There always have been. But now the demonic influences work through people that work through technology to absolutely brainwash these kids in ways that we can't even imagine. And it's very, 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 very difficult to understand just how powerful that is. And I don't know. But then, when they do, like I say, when parents are doing the right things, and yet a kid goes south, and next thing you know, they do. Your heart breaks for those parents, right? I mean, I get that. What about remember the kid up in the Wisconsin school who shot up the place, and the parents did get prosecuted because they were part and parcel of it. They bought a gun. You know that they were at least implicitly, if not explicitly, encouraging acting out behavior, right?
Yeah, there was another case as well where the child themselves were known to be a potential threat to the school by law enforcement and the school themselves and psychiatric people, saying, look, your kid has some very violent, evil thoughts, and the parents still said, well, that's too bad, I'm going to buy him a gun anyways. And then the gun that this minor was bought by their own parents were used to shoot up the school, and then they got charged as well. And I think that is the right thing to do. Now, if I've known people that foster or adopt other people's kids, and the kid just has something, maybe something going on with behavioral issues that they're trying to work on. I don't think foster, that situation, or sometimes if your kid just has, one too many concussions, but and then that causes that. I think it shouldn't be a blanket thing, but I think it's worth investigating.
Right. Okay, well, we're out of time. We're going to play the closing theme. I want you to take it all to heart. Let's thank all of our labor force in America, built this country, made this country great, and we'll really be the reliable stalwarts of our country, no matter who's doing AI or chat or Grok or whatever, because it's really about what we do with our hands and our brains and our great ingenuity and resiliency in this country that makes the difference. On this Labor Day weekend, we'll thank them. And the homework for next week is to answer this question when it comes to parental responsibility for children's behavior. What about the fear factor? What protects parents in terms of our mental health system, our criminal justice system, from kids who are called out, are led to the authorities? Are they protected? That fear factor probably prevents a lot of intervention by parents. We'll talk about it probably next week. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on the next Tobler Show. Stay tuned for On the Money here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.